GameFace.
Oh, sorry. Oh, hey everybody. Welcome to GameFace episode 410 on Election Day. Don't mind me over here just getting hammered so I can deal with it and do the show for today. I'm Shane Satterfield, your host of GameFace. Alongside me, I have a very less nervous, although maybe not, Matt Keil. How are you today, Matt?
I just don't let you see it. That's all. I just don't.
Bottoms up. Drink them if you got them, people. Get your LS cream out and let's get drunk. Seriously. Today is the best advertisement for LS cream we've ever had here on GameFace. Welcome to GameFace, episode 410 on Election Day here on Tuesday, November 5th. Obviously, go out and vote. I already did my part. I will say, I think there are 22 or 23 states where you can register on the same day and vote.
Yeah.
But you got to take like the right ID and all that kind of stuff.
None of the ones that matter today.
Oh, really?
I think most of the swing states are. Well, I mean, a lot of that was passed intentionally in the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Well, here's the thing, though. There are lots of down ballots, so maybe the president doesn't matter in your state, but your Congress people do, your senators and your House of Representatives people. Go vote. So again, doesn't matter where you live, check, but there's 20 plus states where you can register and vote on the same day. Do your civic duty, go and vote. I feel like if we all vote, everything will work out okay. How are you feeling today, Matt?
I mean, I would rather be running her campaign than his if we're just talking about winning the game kind of thing. But I think it's going to be super close. It's infuriating to see some of these early results, and it's just constantly like 48, 49, 49, 49. It's like, how are we so evenly split down the middle of recognizing this guy's an idiot monster and being okay with him being an idiot monster? You'd think like 5% of us would be smarter or dumber one way or the other. It's like, it's just the even split is so irritating to me for some like I would be less irritated if one of them was winning handily, you know. Like, I don't know how to explain that really, but it's just like at least we'd be a completely lost cause, or we'd all be sane,
right?
You know. But it's just like, really, a bunch of you can't fucking make this decision. Like, really?
It's very frustrating. But again, I think
here
if we all vote...
I voted yesterday because you're gonna go early at the places here. I think since Saturday, so I went yesterday because I'm like, oh, I'll beat the crowds. You know, it's not like in Philadelphia where 500,000 people are lined up, going to wait an hour and a half to 4 hours to vote right now. Yeah, I just walked right in and was like, okay, here we go. But it's just like, you vote in California, and it's just like, yeah. We got this, you know. It's just like you gotta look up all the local county stuff to feel like you're making any kind of difference,
right?
Because it's like, oh, I'm totally gonna fund that school, you know.
Which I can't even vote on a lot of that stuff because I'm an independent, so I only get to vote on some things. And it's pretty interesting how they know that, and my ballot comes and it just removes all the stuff I can't vote on.
Yeah, that's the main reason I'm registered as Democrat. It's just like, I don't like being excluded from those things. Yeah, and I like voting in the primary. You know, like not that it really matters. But like,
I have to take whatever you guys give me. That's one thing that's frustrating about being an independent.
That's one thing that's frustrating about being a Democrat the last 8 or so years. Yeah, it's ever since Obama, it's kind of like, oh, we're just gonna retreat from that whole younger, newer thing, huh? Okay. Yeah. But it's just, you know, it worked.
Whatever it takes to win, man. Whatever it takes.
Yeah, you can't argue with 2020's outcome in the end, but like, then we have our own roller coaster.
We're staring down the barrel here of America being over, Matt.
Yeah.
Like, literally our grand experiment of democracy being over and our country going towards a dictatorship.
Yeah.
It's insane that anybody would vote for that. Why? Don't they realize that eventually in a dictatorship that the ruling people are going to put somebody in that you don't like? No. And it's too late. There's no going back, people. Once a country becomes a dictatorship or fascistic, there's no going back. Because once that leader gets in there, they set everything up so that they will never go away. This is it. So again, if you're in one of those 22 states, go register right now and go vote right now. Stop watching this show. I don't give a damn about any views on this show. This is way more important than views on our podcast. Leave. Go, drop the stream right now. go register and vote. Or if you haven't voted and you are registered, go vote, vote.
And remember, if you're in line before the polls close, they cannot turn you away until you vote.
Yeah.
As long as you're there, it's like Disneyland. As long as you get in line before closing time, you get to vote.
And there's some screwery.
Don't turn away.
There's some screwery going on right now in some red states where you may show up and they may say, oh, your ballot isn't there. You need to research because they can't do that. There is effery going on right now. Make sure you research your state, know your rights, go in there and make sure they give you, if they try to say you can't vote, ask for a provisional ballot and vote and shove it up their ass.
Don't trust anyone in a weird booth trying to demand your ID. Don't look.
Yeah.
All that shit. There's a lot of weird stuff going on right now.
Anyway, I'm way more optimistic than Matt. I think we're going to be all right. I think we may even know by tonight that we're going to be all right.
We will not know by tonight, I don't think, because there's too many.
I know, George.
There was too many laws in place that you can't start counting the ballots until this morning.
Yeah,
and it's just not enough time.
Yeah, I think we might have a rough idea at least.
Maybe. I mean, look, I think whoever wins Pennsylvania wins the election. Probably. Like, without Pennsylvania, the path is real narrow. And requires a bunch of weird
Which
shit.
is why they've basically lived in Pennsylvania for the last 3 weeks.
Pennsylvania and North Carolina are your home bases there.
People in chat right now, Pharaoh Doll just posted in our chat all the states where you can go and register and vote on the same day. So check it out. You may be in one of those states and you may be like, oh, I didn't think it was important. I didn't register. It's not too late in a lot of states. Go do it.
Michigan's important.
Yep.
Nevada's important.
Let's make it happen, people. It takes all of us to do this.
Wisconsin's very important. Iowa's very important.
Yeah.
That swing on Iowa is fascinating. Because that wasn't in play.
And the woman who I don't believe any of the polls.
Well, the woman who made that poll is one of the best pollsters in the country.
I know. I saw that. She's always right.
She's the only one who called Trump winning Iowa in 2020.
Right.
So who knows?
Yeah. So anyway, we have an awesome show today, honestly. We have one of the biggest games of the year that we're reviewing today on GameFace. Yeah. We're going to talk about Dragon Age the Veilguard. We're going to talk today about Monster Hunter Wilds, which I got a chance to play. We're going to talk about a couple big games that just came to PC. Our headlines today are gigantic. We actually have a really, really good show for you guys today. And I do hope that now that
Going out with a bang.
I do hope that the people that have now left to go vote, they will have a good show to watch when they come back and get to watch the archive. And that's the beauty of it all, is you don't have to watch it live. We'll have it available for you guys later on as VOD. One more thing before we get going. One piece of housekeeping is that for the first time in a really, really long time, we have an open spot for sponsorship on GameFace. Now, I cut it to 3 sponsors max in the show because I want to make sure that the show is something you guys want to watch. I don't want to load it up with ads and sponsorships. So we only allow 3 sponsors in GameFace at a time. Our contract for sponsorship just ran out with New York Sneaker Society. And I just want to take a second to say thank you so much to New York Sneaker Society for being an amazing partner and an amazing sponsor. But our contract just ran out, and so we have a slot right now open for sponsorship. If you're interested, and again, you've seen, if you watch the show, we can work with sponsorships for just about anything. If you're interested, send us an email, sponsorships@sifted.net. You can also connect with that stuff on our Patreon, but generally we like to do our sponsorships away from Patreon so they don't take a huge cut of our money. So anyway, just send an email if you're interested in sponsoring the show, and we'll try to figure out something that works for both sides. And again, huge thanks to New York Sneaker Society. They've been a great partner. Obviously, as you guys have figured out, one of the sponsors that really was like something that I use just organically. So anyway, thanks again to New York Sneaker Society. And one last plug for them.
His shoes are dirtier today already.
They are.
Really sad.
And one last plug for them. Go to nysneakersociety.co/sifted. Again, a big thanks to them for hooking up GameFace with sponsorship for the last little while. Let's see what else we got here. I think that's it. I think we're ready to get into our headlines. And there are a lot. So, Matt, we may end up cutting a couple of the last stories here if we start getting late on time and we need to move on so we can get to our reviews. But we have a lot of headlines. It was a busy week. The first thing we're going to talk about is something I never thought that I would see, and Michael Pachter definitely didn't think he would ever see it, and that is Nintendo Music. It is a mobile app that has soundtracks for Nintendo games on it. But in order to access it and listen to the music, you need to be a Nintendo Switch Online subscriber. Maybe one of the first true benefits of being a Nintendo Switch Online subscriber. Matt, here's my question. Why?
I like that the demo track is clickbait.
Right. Matt, why do this instead of just putting your music up on like Spotify or whatever?
They know they can milk the Nintendo faithful for a couple more bucks.
But do you think anybody's going to subscribe to Nintendo Switch Online just to get Nintendo music?
Yes.
You think so?
Yes.
Wow. I didn't think so. I didn't think...
I
know the fans are out there.
You haven't known the video game music crazy people I've known.
That's true. Life. Yeah.
There are people, it's all they listen to. It's their whole
OSTs.
thing. And Nintendo is, I mean... It's Nintendo and Sega and Square are your triple godhead of video game music, and I absolutely foresee this working. Like if you don't care about the retro games they put up, you might care about this, and I imagine more people would care about this.
I mean, the irony here for Pactor is that he's been asking Nintendo to put its games up on mobile and charge a monthly fee for it forever. It won't do it. Instead, it does this Nintendo music thing, which is the concept that Pactor's talked about, but just with its music. It just seems like a huge hassle. I'm a Nintendo Online subscriber. I haven't even downloaded the app. Like,
I own a number of soundtracks of things, but that means I don't need this. Like it's not of interest to me. But like I know people who love video game music to the point that it wouldn't surprise me if this pulled some people in. And if you're already subscribed to that, I guess it's a nice little bonus because it's not like this stuff's on Spotify.
Yeah.
So, okay.
It is typical Nintendo.
It's weird.
To create the walled garden around its music.
Yeah, I mean...
like, only Nintendo would do this.
Like I was going to say, if anyone's going to do this.
I mean, we got another hype chest, actually. Oh, crap. Let's go back to chat real quick here. Uh-oh, we just got a hype chest. Rewards.
No, they did not emote.
What is that?
That's just the emoji you got.
That's crap. Well, I'll send it out anyway. Thanks to people who got us on the hype train to get that emote out there, though. Also, I want to thank people before we get moving for Twitch Prime and stuff like that. Oh, there's a ton of you guys and girls. Oh, JM Rain making it rain. Oh, wow. Okay. Wow, there's a ton. You guys saved it all up for Election Day. Big T3, thank you. AKA Neku, thank you. Rigor Mortis UK, thank you. Commander Fett, thank you. Shora F, thank you. JM Rain, thank you. JM Rain, also thank you for gifting all those subs to our chat. Who else we got in here? Pharaoh Doll, thank you for gifting a tier 1 sub to Mighty Pony Girl. That's awesome. This is for Vidya Games, thank you. Toast9, thank you. There's those tier 1 subs from JM Rain. Wow, a lot for today. Talca 1981, thanks. J Reed Vic 7, thank you. David 5807, this is crazy. I guess it is the beginning of the month, actually.
Yeah.
Darmis, thank you. Who else we got in here? Anybody else want to get in here before we move on so I can thank you? Not Cirque, thank you.
Mr. Rosencrantz.
Oh, I did?
Right there. Down more. Right there.
Oh, there it is. Thank you for subscribing at Tier 1 Rosencrantz. That's awesome. What else we got here? Any more? I think I also saw Khalid Twilai give away some subs.
Yeah, I saw that up there.
Yeah, thank you, man. That's awesome. And do we have any more Twitch Primes? Toon Medic, thank you. Yeah, there's a bunch. There's Khalid Twilai's, all the subs. Wow, you guys are awesome. Thank you, guys. This means a lot to us. We really appreciate it. Here's some questions about Nintendo music. Do you listen to Dr. Mario while you work out? No. So are they going to DMCA all their music on YouTube? That's a good question, Retro Modern Gamer. Probably.
Wouldn't shock me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Nintendo's been kind of funky about its music for a long time as well. Like, I remember we would do video reviews on game trailers and use the background music, and sometimes that would pop. Mm-hmm. And we'd get takedown notices from Nintendo. I'd have to call them and talk to PR, who would then send us on to other people at Nintendo, and it would turn into this week-long BS we have to deal with.
They're super fast when they react to it. They're not super fast when you call them.
Right. Yeah. And then there was the time they sent...
The ninjas only work one way.
Yeah, apparently. And then they sent Pactor this Pikachu stuffed animal, and we tried to use that in the set for his show, and they told us to take down the episodes with the Pikachu in it that they sent us. Just
very weird.
Nintendo is very weird with stuff like this. So, yeah, to answer your question, yeah, they probably will DMCA all their music on YouTube. Rosencrantz says, Nintendo Music had more downloads than Spotify as a free music download app. Well, I mean, everybody already has Spotify. Like, it should. I mean, it's a brand new product. It should destroy Spotify for new downloads, at least for like a month or so. Yeah, I mean, most people who want Spotify have Spotify downloaded already, so I'm not surprised by that at all. But it does show that it's doing okay, I guess. That at least maybe some subscribers are into it. Anything else? Okay, I think that's it for our first story. I think generally people are just kind of like, everyone's waiting for Switch 2 right now. And instead of getting the Switch 2 announcement, which we'll get to in a little bit here in our headlines, instead of getting that, we get Alarmo, and then we get this. And I think some people are like, what's going on here? Like, why is Nintendo giving us everything but what we want?
They have a very strict timetable, and we haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, apparently. So anyway, Nintendo Music again, and I'm surprised that they haven't made it available for just the average Joe to just pay for if they wanted to. Like for like $8 a month or something instead of having to buy.
That would be another garden.
You're right. Yeah. Interesting way for Nintendo to handle this, but it always is all about walled gardens. It does try to protect pretty much all its content, so maybe it shouldn't be that big of a surprise. But anyway, there you go. Nintendo Music is out there right now. If you're interested, go download it. And again, you have to be a Nintendo Switch Online subscriber. Next up in our headlines, we finally have some empirical data over what is going to happen now that Call of Duty is on Game Pass on day one. So Call of Duty launched late last week. It's been up over the weekend. We got some sales numbers from the UK. The initial sales numbers in the UK are that this year's Call of Duty is down 10% from last year's Call of Duty in the UK for the same time period. Does that tell you anything, Matt?
Not that many people used Game Pass for it.
Yeah. You think it means that not that many people use Game Pass?
I mean, I don't know what they're expecting. Like 10%, maybe you expect more like 30% because who knows what percentage people play on Xbox versus PC. I don't know.
Well, they've lost...
Also, who knows if UK translates to the rest of the world? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, this is fuzzy logic. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say that this word is bond here. Like, this is anecdotal evidence pretty much at best at this point. But in conjunction with those UK sales numbers, Microsoft announced that it still was the biggest launch ever for a Call of Duty game. And now how they're measuring that is by number of players. So essentially what happened is they lost pretty much all sales on Xbox. And they're saying that the PlayStation and PC versions are up 60% year over year, the sales of those versions, which is a little interesting that more people decided to buy it on PlayStation and PC versus getting the Game Pass sub for $20 for the month to play it.
I mean, that would also kind of line up with the number of people that own PlayStation versus Xbox.
Because you're right. Like, at this point, you still pretty much need a console to play it. You could get a Fire Stick if you want. I don't see most people doing that right now because then you do have to play through the cloud, as we've talked about a bunch of times. But according to Activision, this is like record-setting Call of Duty sales for PlayStation and PC, and then it said it added the most ever subs for Game Pass on a single day.
You can't really ask for more than that, I guess.
I mean, it kind of sounds like everything's working out the way it was supposed to.
Like, the only X factor there is, like, is that enough for you? Like, you know, it's like what, you know, it's one thing to say most added subs in a day ever. It's another to, you know, maybe see the internal data and what they were hoping or thinking it would be, that number would be. You know, we don't know what their target was.
Yeah, they could have still missed the target significantly, but it still ended up being the biggest day of new subs ever. So, again, there's a lot of X factors still involved.
There's no real way to know what Microsoft thinks internally about that.
Yeah. But overall...
I mean, they spent how many billions on this?
69 billion,
Nice.
Well, this obviously with Blizzard and all its IP, but this is the big...
This is the big turkey.
This is the one.
This is the main course.
And I mean, at least the metrics aren't bad so far.
No, they seem good.
They seem pretty encouraging.
I mean, 60% up on PC and PlayStation, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of revenue.
Yeah.
Like, you know, one way or the other.
Yeah. And I think that's just a factor of people heard the game was good.
Yeah.
I don't think that has anything to do with Game Pass.
I also wonder how, I mean, I've been seeing bus stop ads for this since June, like May and June. I wonder if it was like... And I actually, you know, like I said before, I had some conversations at a Halloween party with a couple people who like knew about it, and these are people who, like, one of them, she hadn't played a Call of Duty since Black Ops 2, like, and she's like, I can't believe what it looks like. I'm like, how do you? And she, I mean, part of it's because she did like a marketing video for them.
Yeah.
But like, there were just people that knew about this one in a way that like on a casual player level that I just had not encountered before.
And that's by design, because this was a big bet. Like, this had to happen. Like, Microsoft, this had to happen. They needed this to be good across the board with Game Pass, with sales on other platforms. I think they knew sales of Xbox were going to plummet or flatline. And I think they're pretty much getting probably what they expected. Who knows if they wanted more signups on day one on Game Pass. But I think we could probably at least say so far, so good. Is that fair?
I guess so.
Yeah.
We'll see if they fire everybody.
Yeah. Then we'll know.
Yeah.
I'm still having a ton of fun with
say?
Black Ops 6. Yeah, I'm still playing the multiplayer. I've been diving back into zombies a little bit, so I'm still having a lot of fun with it. Let's get to some people in the chat here and see what they're saying about it. Erebus Jones says, this is a long-term play. It's not going to be one game that changes anything. It'll be years before it's worked. They didn't spend $69 billion on one game. Yeah, Hail Mary. Yep. Iviz, thank you for Twitch Prime, brother. Jerry Vic says, their numbers also won't account for churn. The likely tens of thousands, at least, who will play it on Game Pass for a month and then cancel. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the vast majority of people. They're going to get $20 for it. People are going to go and play the campaign, fiddle around in multiplayer for a couple weeks, and then when the month is up, they're probably going to cancel their sub and move on. I mean, Microsoft would have to be really stupid to not think that's going to happen. And they're not really stupid. So I think they've probably prepared for that.
You just never know how realistic anybody in the C-suite is.
That's true. That's a good point. Mitchell Ness says, it's easy to outdo Modern Warfare 3 sales. They took a big hit last year, if I recall. Yeah, I think you're right. I think they, instead of being at like 25 million, they were at like 20. So, yeah, probably sales are going to go up, provided the game isn't bad, which it's not. Then Vincent says, I thought it was X bigger than last year that they said, but that's because last year sucked. Same point, basically. And Erebus, thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome, man. Anything else on this? No. Okay. So anyway, I think what we can say is it's so far so good. I think, for the most part, this is probably what Microsoft expected. The best thing they could do,
I think, is to blitz somehow maybe the same channels as they advertise in Call of Duty for. Blitz those same advertising channels with next month Indiana Jones is coming.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that might be able to keep some people.
And
especially the people that play the campaign and are just done with it. Like, they might be the audience for a single-player Indiana Jones game next month.
That's true. And Microsoft just got their email address of a lot of new people. Right. They just added a ton of people to their mailing list. Even if those people drop, they can send out emails saying, hey.
And Stalker.
And Stalker as well, which we'll see how that
You can dangle Stalker in front of people who don't realize what they're in for on that one. Who clearly they like running around first person with guns. So look.
It looks like something different than it is.
It looks like it. 5 minutes in, you'll know it's not that, but good luck, everybody. But then it's like, Indiana Jones is coming, and you might be able to hang on to them
through the holiday, maybe.
And then you hang on to them for Christmas, and they forget they subscribed, and they just leave it there. Like, there you go.
That might be part of the plan. I mean,
unless they're using Rocket money,
right?
It's a new sponsor. I'm looking
there we go.
For it. Let's do
it. So anyway, I think, all things considered, based on the data that we know right now, I think Microsoft is probably pretty happy with what's happened with Black Ops 6 so far. But again, it's up to them for them to decide. We don't know what the expectations were, and that's the big X factor there. Next up, we got some information we're going to talk about Dragon Age Veilguard. We're going to review it here in the show in a little bit, but we have a little bit of a news tidbit that we want to talk about first before we talk about the game proper, and that is that BioWare and Electronic Arts announced this week that there will be no DLC for Dragon Age the Veilguard. Coming off the heels of just finding out that there will not be any DLC for Marvel Spider-Man 2. Matt, is this a trend, or is it just a coincidence that both these things kind of happen at the same time?
I mean, I think it's a coincidence. I mean, it took them 10 years to make the fucking game. Like, it should be done. Like, why would you need DLC for that?
Yeah.
And you want to get on with it. Like, this is... The DLC for the other ones makes a little more sense when you're talking about, like, adding on, like... epilogue, like the ending of Inquisitor was DLC.
Yeah.
Trespasser is the real end of that game, and it was DLC that I didn't even play the first time I finished it because it wasn't out yet.
Yeah.
And then I didn't even play that until the last when I replayed Inquisition, because I had the Trespasser DLC spoiled for me when I saw the trailers for this, because I'm like, wait a minute, what the fuck? What happened to Solus? Like, I was like,
yeah.
So I didn't realize I didn't catch the twist at the end of that really when the vanilla ending. So. Yeah, I mean, this is supposed to close everything down and end the series basically, and don't drag that out. Don't tease people with the shit. There's no multiplayer to add on stuff with before, like the co-op multiplayer the other ones had. Just finish it. Do it. Give everybody a complete story on launch day and call it a fucking game.
I honestly would not care if we never got DLC again for any game. I really don't care. It's not something that I like hope for or wish for.
I mean, I like it sometimes. Like I like Horizons DLC and like
there are exceptions.
Like there's
for
things
sure.
where you add on like a module to an open world game. Like I think that's pretty cool. But like I don't think this game's really structured for that. I didn't even like really how they structured the DLC in Spider-Man 1. The way you kind of had to sort of switch to it. You know how you had to switch over to it. I don't like
that's always
that.
weird. It should be organically
I
integrated
want it
into
organically
the game.
incorporated. So it's like, I'm not really getting them. Also, like, I love Spider-Man 1, and I love playing it again on PC and was really excited, and I still burned out on the Silver Sable stuff on my PC playthrough last year. And I was pretty done with Spider-Man 2 when it ended.
Yeah.
I was fine where that, like, I'm fine leaving that there.
Yeah, I wasn't like, I need more. I mean, I really liked the game, and I would play more, but I wasn't like begging for it. Yeah. And I really don't generally with a lot of big games. It's like I get to that 40, 50-hour mark, obviously not with Spider-Man, but with a lot of games, get to 40 or 50 hours, I'm usually pretty good on that game. Like, I typically am not jonesing for DLC.
And there's something, I mean, look, like say Mass Effect 3, we're going to compare this, equivalent to like the big finale for something. First off, the Leviathan DLC should be in the main game because it's a vital fucking story information. Citadel DLC should be in the main game because it's great, and it's the real goodbye to every character in the game. And Omega, which maybe Omega was 2, I can't remember. Most of the DLC in the Mass Effect games, and Dragon Age Inquisition, and Dragon Age Origins, for that matter, they're either completely throwaway nothing, or they are vital to the story and lore, and if you miss them, you're not going to understand the next thing that happens. So it's like, maybe just put those all in the game in the first place and call it a day. Like, I think that's better.
Yeah, I'm not going to miss DLC for this
And it means they can move right on to Mass Effect 5.
And that's not a hint at how I feel about the game, by the way. You're about to find out how we feel about it, but this is me saying I don't want DLC does not mean I don't like it.
Because it really looks like they bought themselves their own lives again. You bought yourselves another game, and I don't mind if that's Mass Effect 5. I mean, we'll see.
Yeah.
But maybe get that one out.
Yeah.
Just to see.
Yeah.
Just so we get one. I'm a little nervous about them switching to Unreal, but we'll see.
Yeah. But for those of you who do care about DLC and maybe you're on the fence about buying Veilguard, just heads up that there's not going to be any post-launch support.
I don't think there's a lot of people that are like, oh, I don't get to spend another $30 after I've already paid $70 for this game. I feel like everyone's okay with that.
Yeah, I think you're right. So anyway, there you go. That's the latest on the Veilguard. Again, we're going to review that here in just a couple minutes. Next up, we got some information this week that we had a defector. One of Insomniac's developers, a creative director who was working on Wolverine, has left Insomniac to move over and work on Perfect Dark with Xbox. First of all, let's talk about Wolverine. So we have this teaser trailer. It's about 20 seconds long, and this is all we have. And it doesn't really show much or tell much. Insomniac really hasn't said much about the game. There was obviously the leak from Insomniac, where we found out that Insomniac's next game actually is supposed to be like a Venom game. And then this game, and then then the X-Men after that? Is that what comes afterwards?
Spider-Man 3 is after that, and then X-Men. X-Men's in 2030.
Yeah, so we kind of know.
But that's, again,
the roadmap.
That leak is from years ago, so we don't know what's changed.
That could have all changed,
I mean, the DLC plan for Spider-Man 2 certainly didn't happen. They had the Beetle DLC and the Symbiote War DLC and all this other stuff that's, but I believe is probably just going to be folded into this Venom game if it still exists.
What do you think happened here, Matt?
I mean, I don't know. Like,
pretty weird for someone to leave Insomniac, which has won awards for being the best place to work in America many times.
You never know. I mean, maybe they offered him a better deal. I mean, look, this is good news for Perfect Dark. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe they offered him a really sweet deal. Maybe he wanted to live up in Bellevue. Maybe he felt like he'd done his job. Maybe he loved Perfect Dark and wants to save it. Like, I don't know. Like, there could be a whole bunch of reasons.
Yeah, you brought up several good reasons it could happen.
It doesn't have to be like, oh my God, Wolverine's a disaster, I have to get out of here.
Or could it just be that it's so far out at this point, maybe they've shuffled things around, that the guy's like, man, I'll spend the last half of my career trying to get this game out the door.
Or maybe it's like all firmed up enough that he's just like, I feel like I've made my input on this, and basically the next 2 years would be me standing around making sure everything's done the way I think it should be done, and I'm more interested in trying to like take on this crazy challenge of getting Perfect Dark out the door.
Yeah.
Reinventing the wheel at Perfect Dark as opposed to like perfecting the superhero Insomniac game again.
Yep, no quotes from him about leaving, and in fact, nobody even noticed. It just happened a couple months ago. People just now noticed that he had moved over to work on Perfect Dark.
I think really this is just good news for Perfect Dark.
I agree. Yeah.
It doesn't make me worry about Wolverine or Insomniac or anything.
Well, me either, because we know Insomniac. We know the people who work there. We know it's not like a culture issue where he wanted to leave because he didn't like working there or anything like that. But I do wonder, it could just be where the project got shuffled around and maybe like, look, we're only gonna have 20 people working on Wolverine for the next like year and a half until we get through these other games. Like there could be a million things.
They have a double setup there. So whoever, Wolverine and whatever their other game. Presumably Venom, but maybe whatever. Maybe a Spider-Man 3 at this point.
Yeah, it could be.
But if you're working on it that early, that's a good way to spend another $400 million on it.
Yeah.
You probably don't want to do that. But I'm sure they're working full time on Wolverine and whatever the other game in their pipeline is.
Yeah. And I do think his skills from working on Wolverine could probably work pretty well on this game.
Yeah.
I'm guessing Wolverine is probably a first-person action game, or do you think it's third person?
Oh, it's 100%. The leak is all third person.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
That's right. You're right. We already saw gameplay of it. Yeah, it is third person. Yeah.
It's Spider-Man with claws. Right?
Yeah.
Obviously they're going to tweak that to be more like him, but they're using the Spider-Man games as a basis.
Yeah.
For the blueprint of gameplay.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
And obviously this last look we got at Perfect Dark, pretty encouraging. So now it's more encouraging now that we know we have a ringer going over there to work on the game. And let's be honest, there are a lot of ringers working on Perfect Dark already.
Yeah, this really seems like it's going to have all the advantages they could possibly throw at it.
And it still could suck.
We don't know. Yeah, we just don't know.
It still could totally suck. We've seen projects like this before. They have an all-star team working on it, and sometimes there's just too many cooks in the kitchen, and it doesn't work out the way that you'd hoped. I hope I'm wrong on this one. I hope Perfect Dark turns out.
Yeah, it's called Concord.
Yeah, that's a good example. Yeah,
that was
all-stars.
Team, 100%.
Yeah, totally. So anyway, maybe bad news for Wolverine, probably not, but definitely good news for Perfect Dark. So if this is a game that you kind of written off and you didn't think you might be interested in it, maybe give it another look because it has some pretty impressive people working on it right now. And I was also wondering if that game might just get canceled eventually.
No, it's
not.
It would have been. That would have happened.
Yeah,
by now.
It's going to be
They've
finished.
sunk too much into it at this point.
Yep.
It's been in development like 6 years.
Yeah,
on and off.
Maybe a little less than that, like 4.5, I think.
It'd be a shame to have wasted so much of Crystal Dynamics' time.
Yeah, I don't think they will.
No.
Yeah. So anyway, there you go. That's the latest on both Wolverine and Perfect Dark. Next up, we've talked on the show several times about how Arkane was shut down when Microsoft acquired Bethesda. And it shut down a bunch of studios, laid off a bunch of people, but I think the one that stuck with people the most was Arkane.
Arkane Austin.
Yeah, Arkane Austin. And one of the co-founders...
Leon's supposedly still doing a Blade game.
Yes, I guess.
Which, movie's dead.
Yeah.
But no reason not to make the game.
I guess. It's a little strange. It doesn't happen all that often. But anyway...
they've been so bad about synergy on things like that with the MCU, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, you're right.
It's not like there's a Captain America World War II Black Panther movie coming out.
You're right.
I wish.
Yeah, you're totally right. So anyway, one of Arkane's old co-founders, he now has his own studio and he's doing his own thing. I think he's already released a game on his new studio. His name is Rafael Colantonio. He basically went on the record this week saying that Bethesda didn't want to publish any more of Arkane's immersive sim games. And that is how you got Redfall. Because Bethesda was like, no moss on Prey and Dishonored. And they're like, well, what are we going to do instead of that?
Yeah, well, as Obi-Wan Kenobi once said, good job. I get it. Like those, I refuse to call them immersive sim.
I know.
The first-person action RPGs weren't selling.
Yeah.
Despite how good they were. So, yeah, change tactics. But maybe that wasn't the right way to go with that.
I think sometimes that's trying to shove a square peg into a round hole.
You wonder if any of them, like in that decision-making space, are worried because Blade is also about vampires.
Like Redfall?
Yeah.
Maybe. It's possible.
Like you and I have worked with dumb enough executives to know that could be something.
It could be a thing.
Yeah.
Oh, vampire's bad now, huh?
Right.
Okay, that's what
that's
what the audience is trying to tell us.
It's like the reverse of that thing where like there was this period in the 60s where one of DC's comics had a gorilla on the cover and it sold like 5 times what the normal comic sold at the time.
Yeah.
So for the next like 10 years, Marvel and DC just put gorillas on covers Like, that's the only X
You
factor they could think of.
Yeah.
So they're like, just keep putting gorillas on covers and maybe it'll happen again. And I feel like I worry about this happening in reverse, where it's like, nobody wants games with vampires in them.
Yeah. Do you think the subgenre is going to go away? Because these were the guys who were making the best examples of it.
No, I mean, people are still kind of making them. Like, the System Shock remasters keep coming out.
Yeah.
There's there's indie ones that happen now and again.
Not a lot, though.
You've got that BioShock successor. His name Judas, is that it? Like, that's gonna be.
That's kind of the same thing.
Sort of the same thing. Not gonna go away.
Would you call BioShock an immersive sim, quote unquote?
Yeah. It wants to be one.
It's kind of right on the fringe.
It's about it's not like a full, like, it's not like Deus Ex full fledged.
Yeah.
But I mean, they named it BioShock after System Shock for a reason.
Yeah.
It's like a light casual version, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But I would still slot it in that as much as like Dishonored.
Yeah. Does Microsoft dissolving Arkane Austin make more sense now that we know this?
I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know.
Kinda,
but like, it makes sense in the sense that you can follow their stupid decision trail. Like, yeah, I guess in that sense. But I mean, it doesn't make sense to shut down a studio that can do something as good as Prey.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not. Like, that's what I mean, it's also sort of a Concord thing where it's just like, it's not that there was anything wrong with Concord, really. It wasn't interesting, but it's like, Prey is great.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
but it didn't sell.
I don't really like what you call. I don't like the Dishonored games very much.
Me either.
But like, or Deathloop. But it's like, you can't argue that they're badly made games.
No, I mean, Deathloop was some people's game of the year.
Yeah, like it's just weird. I mean, you've clearly got a talented team there, and it's like the problem doesn't seem to be them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, maybe it's the project choice, but like, who picked the project?
Why do you think this subgenre isn't popular? It's hard for me to figure out, because action RPGs, third-person action RPGs, are driving the industry.
I think that's part of it, is they're not third person.
Yeah,
like third person is what people want to a large degree.
It does feel that way. Yeah.
I don't know if people, like the casual audience that would make these things the big multi-million sellers they need them to be. Like, I don't know if that audience can look at Prey and tell that it's not like Call of Duty with monsters.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't know if that's...
And they're the people who put games over the top.
Because I guarantee you go to any of the people that like made, I don't know, Dragon Age a giant hit, and I mean, not like us, but like the people, like the people that like, or Baldur's Gate or whatever, and tell them like, say the words immersive sim, and they're not going to know.
Oh, they have no clue what that is.
I mean, there was a thread on Resetera recently where someone asked about what's your favorite immersive sim, and a bunch of people on that forum were in that thread like, what the hell is an immersive?
Really?
What does that mean?
Wow.
Like what is that? It's one of the worst names for a subgenre in the world.
Yeah.
Like, it's because it tells you literally nothing.
Well, I think the immersive comes in from being in first person, so you're sunk into the game.
Right.
It's you in the game instead of playing as some other character.
Right, but it's like every game tries to be immersive, and every game simulates something.
Right.
It doesn't fucking mean anything. It's even worse than Metroidvania.
Yeah.
It's not true. The worst. The worst stupid subgenre name is Blobber.
Blobber? I've never heard of that before.
Blobbers are like the first person, like, tile-based dungeon crawls. Like Legend of Grimrock.
Oh, really? I never heard them called that
like,
before.
Like wizardry and things like wizardry inspired things. Like those are called blobbers.
I've never heard them called that before. Why are they called that?
Because the original graphics just looked like blobs.
Oh, okay.
Like
everything looked like blobs.
The original, third person, 3D dungeon shit, like back in like the Commodore 64. You didn't really know what you were looking at the time. So yeah, they're called blobbers.
Interesting.
Which is like. And like,
well, there's a case where I haven't heard of a subgenre.
Right, but it's like, if you're going to sit there and complain about Metroidvania, we have a whole bunch of other, we have a whole bunch of other genre names in our hardcore gamer world that like don't make a whole lot of sense once you, because like, well, how are you supposed to know what that is if you don't know everything about video games? I'm like, well, they're not intended for that. Like, no one cares outside of us. Like,
does this
making a distinction between immersive sim and first-person shooter doesn't mean anything to someone who isn't into the nuance of that.
Yeah.
And to anyone who doesn't want to use stupid terms like that, like, Deus Ex is just an action RPG that happens to be first-person. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Like,
does this explain why Redfall was finished and not canceled like halfway through?
Because like the higher ups were the ones who thought it was a good idea,
right? Because they're like, we're not going to do those other games. You're going to do this game.
Well, remember some of the employees talked about how when they were bought, like they were hoping that Microsoft would kill the project so they wouldn't have to work on it anymore.
So the people working on it knew what was going to happen with it.
The people working on this stuff always know.
Uh-huh.
Like I have never seen a bad game or an unfinished or a broken or janky game ship, and I knew someone who was working on it, and they weren't immediately like, "Oh yeah, the game sucks." Mm-hmm. Like they always and developers always know they they don't have any control over it.
And they're also not going to say it until the sales are all said and done.
No, of course. But it's like unless you are like a super high up, like you can't do anything about that. It's your job. You sit there and do. I mean, I made plenty of videos and shows and stuff that I knew was terrible, but it's like, what? It's not my problem.
Well, your boss tells you to do it.
Yeah.
You can tell him or her, this probably isn't going to be good, and sometimes they just tell you to do it anyway. Yeah. You're like, okay, I'll do the best I can.
To be fair, I did that a lot, but like you know that.
I think we both did.
Yeah, we both did it. You remember when we were ordered to review the N-Gage games?
Yes.
And we're both like, what the fuck?
What are we doing? And then we were trying to figure out how to get footage and capture this stuff.
Yeah, it wouldn't even work. And we're just like, what the? I can't even play this thing.
I wonder if those N-Gages are worth any money now.
No. They're not even worth the plastic they were made out of.
Yeah, kind of figured.
In hindsight, I'm a little impressed that someone stood in front of you and me and told us, shut the fuck up and do something you don't want to do.
Yeah.
I'm like, both of us? You want to piss both of us off at the same time?
Or you want to waste both of our time.
That too, yeah.
It's like,
especially at the time in the early days.
They needed us
it's like, to
be productive at all times.
There are better things for us to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Than have me review Red Faction on the N-Gage. Like, who the... Okay.
Even in our darkest days on like a Wednesday when I'm like, oh my God, we have nothing for the show on Tuesday. And I'm sitting there trying to figure out what I can put into the show. I never went there.
No.
I drew a line in the sand.
No, there's no reason for that. And as you see, I will forgive at times, but I will never forget.
Yeah. But I think
that was what, 22 years ago?
Wow. Yeah. We hold a grudge.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you guys can see through this story, though, how sometimes things appear one way when you first hear about the story, and then you start to get more details. It changes and morphs over time as you get the real story. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing a little bit here. Like Matt said, like the developers working on Redfall said that they knew all along that the game was going to be a huge flop. But when you have higher ups who decided, you know what, you're not making those other games anymore, and now you're going to make this vampire thing, that game's probably going to be finished, whether you like it or not as a developer. So. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's just kind of the way things work when you're dealing with big budgets and people with big egos.
We'll see if they can sell Stalker 2 to the mass audience.
Yeah,
because that's also that kind of game. So
it'll be a tough sell, I think.
Yeah.
Jerry Vick says they're Thinking Man's games. Mass audiences don't desire the style of replayability and choice. They, by and large, want lean back experiences.
One of the things that turns me off of immersive sims is that attitude from the fan base of those games. Like they think they're so fucking cool because they play Deus. It's like, oh, it's a thinking man. No, it's not. It's just sort of like tedious at times.
Yeah.
And like it doesn't. I don't know how. Prey is not a. I don't know what Thinking Man's game means in terms of Prey or Dishonored.
If you look at Prey, like it does have
Deus Ex,
kind of that gun. It has like different weapons and items that you use that are kind of out of the norm. And it's like that foam gun that you used to like blob stuff up.
Sure, but it's just like, I don't know. Like that doesn't hold water to me. Like I can kind of get that from the original Deus Exes, not the Ubisoft ones, but like, or the Square ones rather. They're up in Montreal. It's all up there. But like Deus Ex required a lot of thinking to get through in terms of like once you get past Deus Ex and System Shock, I don't really think that whole. It's just systems on systems, and Deus Ex is sort of the granddaddy of them all. But I don't think. I mean, we'll see what Stalker is like. But I don't think they are that complicated anymore. No. Like I don't. Anyone who can control a first person camera well enough can play Prey.
Oh yeah. Like we're gonna talk about a game that's really, really complicated later on in the show. And as someone who's played that series a bunch of times and still felt lost, it's to another level in my opinion. But anyway, there you go. That's the latest on Bethesda and kind of behind the scenes what happened there with Bethesda and Arkane being dissolved ultimately once Microsoft purchased it. Next up, this is a story just for you and I, Matt, I think. Maybe some other people will appreciate it as well. Matt, do you remember the legendary Halo 2 E3 2003 demo?
The big battle demo that wasn't actually in Halo 2.
It was never in the game. Well, it's been a legend all this time, and obviously Halo fans are like, dude, like, you built this demo, and for a long time people thought the demo might have been faked because it wasn't actually in the game. But as it turns out, if you watch this demo now, you'll see environments in this that actually did end up being in the final game. I think they just repurposed them in some way.
Yeah, just for whatever reason, this did not happen.
Yeah,
in the game.
And so for 20 years, Halo fans have been like, what's up with that Halo 2 demo from E3? Like, it was awesome. It sold the game. Like, the ending of this demo, I think, is one of the most iconic endings to a demo ever.
Was this the bet you can't stick it?
Yeah.
thing?
That's where Cortana goes, I bet you can't stick it. And he goes, you're on, or something like that. Like, again, like one of the most legendary endings to like an E3 demo. And then it's not in the game. Well, they've waited 20 years, and Microsoft has been listening all this time, and it is coming to the Master Chief Collection as a mod to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Halo 2. Which I think is pretty awesome. You think of all the things that Microsoft has going on with this franchise, trying to make sure it doesn't die, but somehow, in the background, it's managed to devote enough resources to this thing that only the most hardcore of Halo fans even know about at this point, really.
I mean, it's a nice little sort of like, hey, remember when you cared?
Yeah. I mean, maybe that's their strategy here.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what? Maybe if we revive stuff like this, it'll remind people why they love Halo.
Well, also, it's not like you can put out another version of Halo 2. You've already got the Master Chief Collection. Like, you've already done that.
Yeah.
So, this would, I mean, if you were going to, like, put me in a meeting room and say, like, we need to do something to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Halo 2, what are we going to do? Like, this would probably be like my third or fourth suggestion at lowest, like, probably my first if I'm really being honest, but, like, it would be in the top 5 ideas.
The other thing that's shocking to me about watching this now is how demos back then were so different than they are now. Now, any stage demo or any like gameplay section that you put out to promote your game, it is just every second is filled with something happening. Action, action, action. There is just like straight up downtime in this demo where you're just slowly walking.
Well, because the only people watching this were press.
It's insane.
This was people. If you didn't see this, if you were if you were not in the press.
Yeah. And like there was one shot earlier where like one of your soldiers like looks at you and goes to turn and run away, and he literally just spins on his axis and starts running the other direction.
I don't know why anybody would have thought this was not real.
Yeah.
Like it's like
well, back then
it's got all the flaws of an actual game level.
But also back then when this was shown, this was like gobsmacking. Like this demo blew people's minds.
Yeah, well, the scope of it was certainly different. But that was also always Halo's thing. Halo was always about big open battles in large spaces because that was what Bungie's original idea was.
Yeah, but it's just watching this. It showed me how our minds as game consumers and game enthusiasts have changed over time to what is acceptable as like a big flashy demo.
Well, it's also just what presentation has become.
Yeah. I mean now,
especially when you're up against when you're up against everything, nothing is a guarantee anymore. Like, there's very few games that are just like a guaranteed hit, like maybe From Software at this point, or a couple, maybe Last of Us 3 probably. But Halo 2 knew it didn't have to compete with anything for attention. Yeah. That may not be true now.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely not. It's definitely not true now. There's plenty of competition for Halo now, but you're right. Particularly in the console space back then, there was just no competition. None.
No. And this is this, Halo 2, like the sequel to Halo. I mean, Halo changed multiplayer on consoles.
Well, I mean, this also had online multiplayer.
And it was, and oh my god, he pulled out 2 guns, like the fucking
mind blown.
People just
dual wielding.
And those of us who played Marathon were like, yeah, no, finally, no shit. Yeah. Like we've been doing that since 1995, man. Come on.
Vincent says, you say they can't release Halo 2 again, but if the Halo 1 remake does well on PlayStation, they definitely will. Halo 1 remake? What? What are you talking about, Vincent?
It's rumored that that's one of the things they're working on is a Halo 1.
I didn't even hear anything about that.
Yeah, it floats around. I mean, I think they could do a lot worse than to put Master Chief Collection on PlayStation. Like, even if they do it piecemeal.
Seriously.
Like
Erebus Jones says, I know your memory is the best anti-aliasing tech known to man, but I refuse to believe Halo ever looked this bad. And this is Halo 2.
It's 2. I mean, this is Xbox, the original Xbox.
Yeah.
This is
what it can do. I mean...
This is 2000... It came out in 2004.
Yeah.
Like, this is what games looked like.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this looked better than anything on PlayStation.
I still remember going to this review event. I sat next to Dan
Yeah.
Shu the whole time and reviewed Halo 2 sitting right next to him. We were here, actually, in L.A., at some weird hotel suite thing, and it was like hot as balls in there. They put us all in this little like walk-in closet room with like 10 kiosks with everything on. It was so hot in there all day. I could not wait to finish the game. Like towards the end of the day, I was like, dude, get me out of here. It was like 115 degrees in the room. I was like, what are they thinking? Like having us review it here. But anyway, it's hard to believe now.
So you're really at war.
Yeah, it's hard to believe now. It's been 20 years.
War is hell, and so is this closet.
Yeah, I mean, that was back when magazines were rolling the roost. Like, websites were still just like, the transition hadn't completely happened at that point yet, where websites were dominating magazines.
Well, yeah, I know, because you said Dan Shu.
Right, yeah.
That dude was EGM royalty.
Yeah, and then he just recently worked at Blizzard.
Yeah, he did a bunch of stuff.
Then he was laid off,
that.
and now he's at Riot, working on League of Legends.
He's at Riot, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's also doing board game stuff.
Yeah,
like
yeah, he's
that.
really into it. You guys should connect, probably.
We have a couple of times,
Yeah.
but like back in the day when the E3 that was out in Santa Monica, like I was his producer for and the main thing we did was he interviewed Shu, or the Sony guy, and a bunch of Sony people, and it was. I split my time between him and Sessler, like going around doing various interviews with like luminaries, and it was interesting.
It was the weirdest E3 ever.
It was very strange. Well, also weird for me, like working with Shu, because I was like, I know him. I mean, I've been reading his stuff for years, and I was like, oh, I was like, it was like working with Andy Eddy or something. It was a little. It weren't a lot of people in the game journalism space that I looked up to, or like were like, oh, like I know you from back in the day, but Shu was one of them.
He's also a great guy, by the way.
Yeah, and he actually
really
wasn't even like that much older than us.
Yeah,
but, like,
all the EGM guys were good dudes, actually, as it turns out. Vincent adds more context. He says, remember, they said there were multiple Halo projects when they switched engines, and everyone's assuming a Halo 1 remake is part of it. Okay, I mean, that's fair. I mean, it definitely
would
needs
make
remade.
a lot of sense to put Halo on
Yeah.
PlayStation in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty good one.
Yeah. So anyway,
it's amazing if you see the threads and the rumors and stuff on that. It's amazing how many of the PlayStation fans have never touched a Halo game,
because they just wouldn't.
They just never owned an Xbox.
I mean, there's a lot of people like that.
Like you're in the whole like, oh, it's new to you kind of thing.
Yeah,
and like Halo 1's still pretty fun.
No, I mean, I've been surprised by how well these Xbox games have sold on PlayStation. I can't believe how well Sea of Thieves sold.
Yeah, Sea of Thieves is like.
I was like, really?
I guess
is that a game you guys were coveting on PlayStation?
But there's just nothing else like it.
I guess.
There,
Yeah.
Like it's not
Skull and Bones, but
like. Can you play accordion with your friends on the deck of the ship and Skull and Bones? No, you cannot.
Yep. Touche. So anyway, thank you for indulging us for Matt and I's trip down memory lane. We like to do that every once in a while here on GameFace because we've been doing this for so long. We have so many memories about these old games, and now everything's coming back full circle. It's 20 years later, and they're all being remade and redone, but Matt and I's stories remain, and hopefully you guys don't mind that we share those every once in a while here on the show. Next up, this had to make you happy. So as a second part of BioWare saying that there will be no DLC for Dragon Age the Veilguard, it also added that it is doing that because the next Mass Effect is going into full production, and it wants to shift all of its resources over to the new Mass Effect.
They announced this way too early.
They did. Do you think this is going to be called Mass Effect 4 or 5?
Oh, they're calling it Mass Effect 5.
Are they?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see that.
5.
Okay, I didn't see that. So we need to change our database.
It's been referred to as 5 several times.
Okay, I didn't know that.
It's the 5th game.
It is, but obviously Andromeda didn't have the number, the numerology.
No, but it's the 5th game.
Yeah.
I would imagine it's not going to have a number. I think it's going to be Mass Effect :
whatever
something.
So their code name for
Shepherd Hunt.
I can see where their code name then would be 5 for sure. Yeah.
You're just calling it that because it's the 5th game. And that's
do you think there will ever be a Mass Effect 4? Do you think they'll ever go back to numerology again?
They did a trilogy, and this is a sequel to the trilogy. They're not going to call it a 4.
Yeah.
Especially because you don't want to alienate. Same reason they didn't call Dragon Age Inquisition 3 and Veilguard 4. Like, you don't want to have people think, oh, I haven't played these ancient games. And
you're right. Once you number them, it dates them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, you're like, okay, I guess I got to go pick up the Legendary Collection and play 200 hours of Mass Effect before I pick up this new game. It's like, you don't want them to think that.
Yeah.
Like, you want to go, and so it'll be Mass Effect :
whatever
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think now that this is going into full production? It's been in pre-production for a couple of years now. When do you think, now that's going into full production, we might actually get to play the next Mass Effect?
Oh, 2027.
Yeah.
26.
That's actually quicker than I thought. I thought you were going to say maybe 5 years from now.
No, I think the pre-production is more or less done, but I'm gonna guess you're probably gonna play this on PlayStation 6.
You think so?
Early
dual, like both of them, basically.
I mean, it'll be on everything, but I'm gonna say it's gonna. I think it's gonna be like Inquisition. It's gonna be a launch window title.
When it straddles the fence on both
like
sides.
it'll be that holiday season or whatever when the new systems come out.
Yeah. Are you excited for it? After what happened with Andromeda?
I mean, it's not the same people that made Andromeda.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be the goofball, paper-thin version of Frostbite. They're switching to Unreal.
Right. That's a big deal.
So, we'll see. I mean, my inclination is you should leave this alone. The original, the Shepard trilogy is pretty pristine. I think
they did a really good job with it. That's why I'm more encouraged for the next Mass Effect.
The Mass Effect trilogy is probably my favorite video game of all time, taken as a whole. It's like between that and Shadow of the Colossus. And doing a sequel where you're sort of not centering it on Shepard is hard to picture. Like they suffered from that in Andromeda.
Yeah.
Because I did replay about half of Andromeda. I replayed all of Inquisition, and I replayed about half of Andromeda in preparation for Dragon Age Veilguard, because I wanted to have those last two games fresh in my mind. I wanted to know what they felt like. I wanted to know how the Frostbite engine behaved in those games so I could compare it directly to Veilguard. And I'm glad I did that, because it was a very educational thing to have all that stuff fresh in my head and my hands.
I did not. So.
But I don't know. Like, if they have a good idea for this, maybe, but we're not going to know that until we get there.
The big time X factor. Yeah.
I would love more Mass Effect that I love. I'll put it that way. Like, I'm super open to loving more Mass Effect. I just
That's one thing I know about Matt Keil.
Didn't love Andromeda.
Yeah.
And having replayed some of Andromeda, the sting of it being terrible Mass Effect is a little less replaying it now.
Well, remember when we reviewed it,
it was also pretty broken.
I actually liked it, but I understood that for Mass Effect fans, it wasn't what they wanted. As an action game, I enjoyed playing it still.
It is the best gunplay still of the series. It's just in service to some really thin writing. And like, it's playing it now with the distance from it, it's so transparently not a Mass Effect game. Yeah. It's so clear that this was originally just a game called Andromeda that they like grafted like Mass Effect stuff onto. Because like,
that happens a lot.
None of this stuff has anything really to do with the Asari or the Turians. And there's that other arc that there's like, oh, we don't know where the arc with all the interesting aliens is, because like we didn't want to animate them in this engine. Really, they're basically you've got Turians, Asari, Solarians, and humans. Yeah, and it's just like, oh, the four most boring, like, standard alien races from a Star Trek perspective. We don't have the weird psychic jellyfish. We don't have the big like guys that have to preface their speech with, you know, with their tone. Yeah. We don't have the weird like Ferengi moles. Like, none of the cool shits here. Yeah, it's just like, all right. It's not bad, really. This
trilogy made me feel better about BioWare. I'll say that much.
Oh, yeah. When they were trying to move into sort of a more action-y thing, and I think they found it with this, where they weren't able to find it with Dragon Age at the time. Because certainly they were trying to bring Dragon Age 2 more into that space, and really tried to bring Inquisition in that space. And certainly I would say Inquisition does not succeed at the action-based gameplay the way Andromeda does.
Yeah, I'd agree with that 1,000%. Yeah. So anyway, at least it's in full production. So to Matt saying 2027, roughly.
I mean, that's what I think it's probably going to take them 3 years at least.
Of full production. Yeah. That actually makes sense. I would agree with that. Because, again, they have worked on this for 2 years already. So it's not like they haven't been doing anything until now. And that's how it works. Like, people don't realize pre-production takes up a lot of time. It's a small team.
Yeah, it doesn't need a full team. If you get all hands on deck now, we can
They're like, now we know what we're doing. Let's just produce it.
Probably 3 years, hopefully. That'll be enough, depending on how it goes.
I hope so. So anyway, something to look forward to, probably around the launch of PlayStation 6. We'll see how that works out as well. Speaking of PlayStation 6 and PlayStation hardware, our next story in headlines is a little bit of information that Sony let slip. A bunch of press is making the rounds right now for PlayStation 5 Pro because the units are going out. Obviously, it launches in 2 days, but the press have received it, so Digital Foundry did a big thing on it, IGN did a big thing on it, and PlayStation has been answering questions about it. And one of the things that came out through all this coverage over the last couple of days is that they started working on PlayStation 5 Pro before the base PlayStation 5 launched.
Yeah.
So PlayStation knew all along that it was going to do a mid-cycle refresh. It wasn't like, let's see what happens and then we'll decide. They knew before they launched PS5 that a few years later they were going to put out a slightly more powerful version of that console.
Spoilers, they already know what PS6 is.
Yeah. I'm wondering, Matt, if it's starting to become the smarter thing to hold on to last gen as long as you can. A lot of people did with PS4 to PS5. And then instead of buying that base model of the next console, finally upgrade when PlayStation puts out the mid-cycle refresh.
I mean, I wouldn't.
I mean, we can't but I'm saying as the average consumer, is it a smarter tactic to do that?
I don't know about smarter.
Because it feels like, again, we talk about the law of diminishing returns all the time, and it is absolutely happening. Like, yeah, but it's very hard to see the upgrades.
They still run better on PS5. That was very noticeable when I got it.
For sure.
You couldn't even play Ratchet and Clank.
Right. Yeah, there was a small smattering of games.
A few of them.
It's like 3. And still to this day, there's only like 5. Like, I feel like you could have definitely got by with the PS4 Pro.
Apparently about half the Sony audience did.
Yeah.
So, I mean, sure, it's not like it's invalid, but I'm not going to do that.
Do you think, though, that this discourages people from buying the launch unit to base unit in the future?
It's 4 years later. Like, it's more than enough time to get, and most people are going to trade theirs in for a fair amount of money.
Well, under my idea and my plan, you would have the Pro from the prior gen because you're always buying the Pro, which means that when you trade it in, you would get more money for it. So that could lend credence to what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
It just seems weird to think that, like, now it's just the plan.
It's always, I mean, that's how long it takes to make a console, though. I mean,
Well, I think the difference was...
Sega's already working on a Saturn when they put the Genesis out.
Right.
Like, we all know that.
I think the difference, though, is that, like, it used to be at year 4 or year 5, you'd put out the next console, not just a buffed up version of your old console. That's where the changes come into play. So,
the problem isn't that. The problem is the price.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're all going to be $700 or the equivalent now, then yeah, I guess that's a thing to take in consideration.
Well, maybe that says that you should buy the base unit then instead of waiting for the Pro if they're going to jack up the price of the Pro like this.
It depends what you're happy with.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't be happy with less than optimal performance. I would be more. I did order a Pro from Amazon.
You did?
Like 4 days ago. Like, it has not been a rush, really.
Oh, there's no rush. Yeah, you can just order one and have it sent to you.
Yeah, unless you want the
30th anniversary
thing.
Yeah.
Which I don't care.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm gonna order one and I'll get one, because I figure I'll want it whenever the first exclusive next year is a deal.
And Big Dave Lazard says, I got a PS5 4 months ago. How much do you get on a trade-in? Asking for a friend. I'm sorry, man. Mellow Pintor says, I just traded my 2 OG. You had 2 OG PS5s. And he says, I'm upgrading, boys. Dude, why do you have 2 PS5s? Do you live in 2 different places? You don't want to haul them back and forth?
You got 2 different places, 2 different rooms.
Yeah.
Where one person plays in there, and the other person plays in the other room.
Yeah, I have relatives like where their kids all have their own PS5s. Glottis21, thank you for Twitch Prime. Surly Mexican, thank you for Twitch Prime as well. I mean, look, this has nothing to do with us. Like, we're gonna keep buying the most powerful console, but I mean, it is kind of crazy how long it took PS4 owners to upgrade to PS5 this time. Like, it feels like some of them were maybe kind of holding on for that PS5 Pro.
I don't think they were.
No?
I think they were waiting for a price drop that never came.
It could be both. It could be like, well, we're just about due for that Pro, and I don't want to get burned like I did last time where I bought the lower power one.
You're going to get burned anyway because you're going to spend $700 on it.
Yep. Yep. So anyway, just a reminder, by the way, that the PS5 Pro does go on sale in like 2 days. And to Matt's point, and to my anecdotal evidence, you can just go buy them. You don't need to worry about being there when they get a new allotment or anything.
Like I think mine's showing up on the 11th instead of launch day, but it's like...
With a console like this, it's just an upgrade. It's who cares?
Right. Like I would want launch day arrival on like a PS6.
Right. If it's the new one. Yeah.
Switch 2, but I would not for this. It's just like, all right, I'll get to you.
Yeah.
Like I know I'm not even gonna hook it up immediately. I'm just like, oh, okay, you're here, you're set. I'll do that.
What will prompt it is when you have another error from your Ethernet port.
That'll
do it.
I mean, also I said that one of my friends that doesn't have a PS5, I said I just hand the PS5 off to her. Like, it's the one that knew the Black Ops stuff. Mm-hmm. And she's like, I just don't have anything to play them on. I'm just like, I'll give you my old PS5 when I get the Pro. Just play it sideways, because otherwise the
blow in the disk drive.
I mean, I'm one of the few people. You and I are one of the few people I know that actually have hardwired connections to our consoles.
Most people do use wireless, yeah. I always make sure mine's hardwired because I play so many multiplayer games.
I always do that because it just downloads faster.
Yeah.
And because, like, if I do play something online, I refuse to be the slow connection.
That ruins the game for everybody else.
High ping I come from the 90s.
High ping bastard.
Yeah.
HPB. So anyway, that's where the PS5 Pro came from. They've been working on it for a really long time. And to Matt's point, they're absolutely working on PlayStation 6 right now.
Oh, yeah.
And they probably have been for a couple years already. So that's nothing new. Working on
they
hardware
don't need to
before
reinvent the wheel anymore.
What?
They're not going to reinvent the wheel again.
Right.
There's no like cell processor shit on there.
Yeah, I mean, and also I feel like both Xbox and PlayStation have settled into a place where they're not interested in doing any kind of gimmicks.
Yeah.
They're not like Nintendo where they're trying to
All
find
the gimmicks
that
are in the
next thing.
controller.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Okay, next story. And Matt kind of segued us there a little bit. Nintendo put out its financial report yesterday, and it shared that Switch sales are down 31%. The bottom is finally falling out for the Nintendo Switch. It took almost 8 years, Matt, for that to happen, which is just mind-blowing.
I assume this is just because everyone has at least one.
At least. Most. I mean, my sisters and brothers, they have more than one Switch in their households.
That was always the plan. Everybody gets their own Switch in the house.
And they will have like Switch plus a Lite or whatever, but they do have two of them. And so that has worked. I mean, that's probably a big reason why they've waited 8 years to finally announce the Switch 2.
Still just got my launch system.
Me too. I have OLED.
I did
buy the OLED. And I'm glad that I did.
They didn't get me.
Yeah. It was worth it. Like, the crazy part was I sold my old Switch and got a crap ton of money for it because they can jailbreak them and use them for piracy. So when you sell it, they ask you for the model number of your Switch. And since I had a launch unit, mine was capable of piracy, basically. And I sold my old Switch for almost as much money as I paid for it.
Yeah.
And then put that money towards the OLED, and I got the OLED for like $100 or whatever. So it all worked out pretty well. But anyway, Nintendo shared that its numbers are way down for Switch. And so, as you might expect, the press who was on the call said, okay, well then, when are you announcing Switch 2? And all the Nintendo's president would say is we're sticking to what we were saying before, and we're going to announce it before the end of March 2025. So, still in the holding pattern. As I mentioned earlier, people are pissed off because we get this Alarmo announcement, we get the Nintendo Music announcement. Everybody doesn't want those. They want to hear about the Switch 2, and Nintendo just keeps dragging it along.
Please let us be consumers again. It's like, get over here. Come on.
Any idea, Matt, when you think it might be announced? Do you think Game Awards might be on the table, or no?
I don't think so. They want control over that. They're not going to give that to Jeff.
I mean, they gave Xbox Series X was on the Game Awards, right?
Xbox Series X is not the Switch.
No, you're right. But I'm just saying there is precedent for debuting hardware.
Xbox doesn't give a shit in that regard. Nintendo does. Yeah. Nintendo wants full... This will be in a direct specifically dedicated to the Switch 2.
Because they'd be terrified that somebody demoing it on stage would like screw it up or say something
they wouldn't even demo it. It wouldn't be a video. It would be a pre-produced, PR-heavy video where we got a bunch of beauty shots of the console and a bunch of very pretty people playing it in
like we're seeing right now,
in unlikely places where you and I will never play it. What is happening?
Yeah, where is this?
What is this? an empty ballroom in a hotel and everybody's dressed in uniforms for a warm-up and with a chalkboard?
So
what is happening?
So League of Legends esports athletes are going to not play League of Legends and instead play Splatoon with their time off while they're at the event. You're right,
Give me a large personal break.
Vincent says, I thought you got a Switch sent from Nintendo. I did, Vincent. Yeah, they sent it to me. But then I sold it to buy the OLED myself. They didn't send me the OLED version. And I wanted it, so that's how I got it. So anyway, that's the latest on Nintendo Switch 2, which is to say that there's no news at all. But we only have what?
They'll announce it before the end of Q1, I think. They'll probably announce it in March, and it'll come out in August, September.
Yeah, I mean...
If it was launching in the spring, we would have had factory leaks by now.
Yeah. And at this point, like, that's only like 4 months away. Well, 5. Yeah. We have to get through November, December, January, February, March. So 5 months. Worst case scenario.
But you'd have it it would be being produced right now because you wouldn't be able to, you'd have to get it done now because you're hitting the Chinese New Year, you're hitting it's like you'd have to have it in production now to get enough units out for a launch in March.
Yeah, I don't think it's launching in March. I definitely don't think
Don't say that to the Nintendo weirdos.
Because, they think that it is?
I don't know if they think there is, but they get real mad when you suggest it's the second half of 2025.
So they think it's going to be like a shadow launch in March?
I don't know what they think. I think they just want it.
Yeah, we all do.
They don't want to think they're going to have to wait almost a year for it.
Right.
It's like, sorry. Guess what? GTA 6 is coming in the fall, too. We're all waiting a year for the stuff we want.
Well, then they were probably really sad to get this news today from Nintendo because this pretty much tells you that, it's not coming out in March.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
It's at the very least, it's after June.
Yeah.
And my guess would be August.
Mm-hmm. Probably. Selling hardware in summertime is a little...
It is, but it gives you they're not going to have a problem moving launch.
Because they're only going to have probably 5
and it
million
gives them
units.
time. It gives them time through June through October to make the holiday rush batch. That's the timing works out for that.
Yeah.
So you can get them back in stores in November and December, and that'll be your holiday sales. They're gonna sell as fast as they can make them.
Oh yeah. I mean, they'll have 5-7 million at launch. Those will be gone like that. And then it's going to be the waiting game. Then you are going to have to do Amazon's getting a shipment on Tuesday at 6 in the morning. I have to set my alarm for 5:30 and sit there hoping to get the stupid console. It's so stupid. I'm hoping that they find a new way to do this before next year. I know it's a stupid thing to think and hope for, but...
They will not.
They will not. Anyway, that's the latest on Switch 2, which is to say that there is nothing new on Switch 2.
You'll sit in a virtual queue for 3 hours, and then it'll all be gone by the time you get there.
Yep.
But it won't tell you that until you try to check out.
Yeah. Yep, that's pretty accurate. Next up, we just have a couple more stories left in headlines. You guys may remember an old video game called The Oregon Trail. Well, for some reason, Apple has decided to dig up this property and create a movie about it. In 2024, they're saying it's going to be an action comedy film, which, if it's like Blazing Saddles or something like that, maybe it could be something.
I don't think you're going to get a biting satire out of this. I think it's going to be more like Jumanji.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, why is this happening?
Because people have heard of it.
You think that's what... you like...
That's all it takes to get anything greenlit now.
Yeah.
People have heard of it.
So what do you think is happening is we have a cowboy movie and we need to find a way to sell it. So can we just tag Oregon Trail onto it? Or do you think they start with let's make an Oregon Trail movie?
They start with the IP.
Yeah?
They start with the IP, 100%.
Okay.
And then they're gonna make a thing out of this, and somebody's gonna be named Terry, and someone's gonna get killed because they're mean to Terry, and so they're gonna die of dysentery, and it's gonna be shit like that.
Yeah.
That's gonna be you're gonna The Rock is probably gonna be in it.
You're probably right.
either as the biggest settler you've ever seen, or the voice of one of the oxen. I don't know.
You can be the voice of the covered wagon.
Jack Black is 100% going to be the father.
Or he's going to be the horse pulling the wagon.
Could be the horse, yeah.
It really is crazy how just any video game becomes a movie now. And I mean, the thing about it is they somehow in a lot of cases make it work. It's kind of bizarre how they've managed to finagle some of these properties into movies. When you hear about them the first time, you're like, what? How could that possibly happen? And I'm not saying the movies end up being good, but they end up being passable at least. I
don't know if I would call most of the video game movies I've seen passable.
Well, I think anything that makes it into a theater is passable. That's what I would call
passable. Uwe Boll's movies made it in a theater.
That's true. Yeah. He might be the exception.
Let's not go crazy.
I mean, crazy is making a movie
Doom
about the
was in a
Oregon
theater.
Trail. I mean, even for core gamers, I don't know, a lot of people at this point have played Oregon Trail.
I mean, Oregon Trail has always been there.
Yeah.
Like, you're even showing footage of what kids would play now as an Oregon Trail is ubiquitous.
Yeah. Well, that's like the gussied up, newish version of it. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, everybody knows Oregon Trail. One way or the other. I mean, I imagine today's kids don't have the fondness for it that we do, but everybody knows Oregon Trail.
Yeah.
It's fine. Like, at the very least, I can kind of see the pitch for this more than like what the Minecraft movie has turned out to be. I just admit that I didn't picture everything in Minecraft as fuzzy.
Right. Yeah.
Like everything in Minecraft is fuzzy?
It's not.
I didn't think that was.
It's like the opposite of Minecraft.
I didn't think the.
Everything's very rigid and jagged.
I don't even know the name of the things and the things that blow up.
Yeah.
Like
I don't know what they're called either.
Creepers? Are they
creepers?
creepers?
I think they are, yeah.
They're
the things that attack at night.
Yeah, I didn't think those had fur.
Right.
But in the
movie
film
they
do.
do.
The other thing that's weird about that movie, everyone's like, why does this look so weird? I'm like, the reason it doesn't look right is because they are changing the size of the pixels depending on the object.
Oh.
Because the look of Minecraft is because every block is the same size. And in the movie, look at that movie trailer. The blocks that make up the sheep are not the same size as the blocks that make up the ground, which are not the same size as the blocks that make up the mountain. That's why it doesn't look right.
Interesting.
There's a name for that, like a pixel name for I think like
not like cubism or anything.
No, it's like pixels or
not voxels.
No, it's a slang name for like when you don't have a uniform pixel size in the art.
Oh, okay.
And it's like pixels or Mixel. It's called Mixels.
Oh,
that's what
that makes sense. Mixed pixels.
Mixel. Your mixed pixel sizes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but Minecraft doesn't do that in the game. So like when you look at the movie and you're like, why doesn't that look right? That's why it doesn't look right.
Yeah. So anyway,
that movie is not going. I don't know. I don't think that
this is going to be on Apple Plus anyway. It's not like it's going to go to theaters probably.
What? No,
it might.
That's a theatrical release.
Is it going to be in theaters?
Yeah.
I just thought it's for Apple TV.
I don't think it's Apple TV.
No.
I think it's like.
So Apple funds films that just are for theaters?
Is that Apple?
Apple is apparently funding the project. Another studio is producing it, but Apple's like behind it.
Yeah, but if another studio is producing it, they're going to want it in theaters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's going to be in. They think the kids are going to see that. I don't think they are.
We're going to see what?
Minecraft.
The Minecraft movie?
Yeah.
They'll go see it.
I don't think they will.
Really?
Not in the number. I mean, they're hoping for a Mario level.
Oh, no.
That's not what they're going to get at it.
But I think they'll make a money on it, on the Minecraft movie.
We'll see. Like, I have not seen a lot of positive response to that.
I don't think it matters. The kids,
kids
don't care, man.
I think it matters.
Kids go watch horrible movies every week.
Kids don't know who the fuck Jack Black is.
Yeah.
The problem. There's.
I mean, my brothers and sisters go watch horrible movies every week because they have to, because their kids want to go to the horrible movies.
Yeah, but I don't think you look at that and it doesn't look right to them. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Minecraft, powerful concoction for the young ones.
April 4th. I think it's in theaters.
All right. Next up, we had a fun story this week. We've complained about here on GameFace over the last few months. The cost of PlayStation Plus just keeps going up. The cost of everything keeps going up. The cost of Game Pass has gone up to $20. PlayStation Plus keeps going up. Well, there was a crafty gamer out there who was like, I've had enough of it. And so he went out and he bought over $2,000 worth of PlayStation Plus subscriptions so that he could avoid all the potential price increases of PlayStation Plus for the foreseeable future. Honestly, for probably the rest of his game playing life. Mm-hmm. And those subscriptions stack. So if you find a cheap deal on PlayStation Plus, like, buy a bunch of them. Like, those deals stack, and you could literally have PlayStation Plus for years and years to come. What do you think about that story, Matt?
Yeah, there's no Apple on the Minecraft movie. That's Warner Brothers.
No, I think there is. Like, if you read the story that's on SIFTD, it talks about Apple.
No, they're not. It's Warner Brothers, Legendary, Vertigo, On the Roam, Mojang, and Domain. And they're distributed by Warner Brothers Worldwide and Legendary East in China. So
Weird.
That is theatrical.
I mean, I got that straight from a story about the film, so I obviously wouldn't make it up. Why would I make that up? So somebody misreported it then. But anyway, he spent over $2,100 on PlayStation Plus subscriptions to avoid the price increases that will inevitably come. Like, Matt, how far can these can we go here? Like, how much can they charge eventually for like a year of PlayStation Plus? Like, we're already at what, 70 now?
I don't know, but we're gonna find out.
I mean, do you think we could
going.
ever get to a point where they're gonna try to charge people $100 a year?
They'll try it. Wow. I mean, I don't know when, but at this rate, next month, everything's going up repeatedly in a year. I mean, I remember when the conventional wisdom was you didn't raise the price on these things more than once every year and a half.
Yeah, there was 2 Game Pass price increases in less than a year. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then PlayStation Plus, I think it was 2 in 18 months, but then the second one was like huge. That's where they completely redid all the structure for all the PlayStation Plus tiers and all that kind of stuff. I feel like there's a breaking point at a certain point where people are like, no, I'm not paying you this much money to play games online. Because that's what the vast majority of people use it for, is just to play games online. You do get, at least PlayStation still does give away 3 free games per month if you're a PlayStation Plus subscriber. Xbox doesn't do that anymore. So that is maybe a little bit of a competitive advantage for PlayStation. But
although you could argue that Game Pass does that as its main
is giving away all the games, for $20 a month or whatever. So I thought this was pretty clever. Now most people don't have $2,000 lying around to save themselves like $500.
I mean, if you're that sure.
And I guess, if he does pass away or something, he could leave his console and his account to somebody. I don't know. He's definitely taking a little bit of a risk there.
Taking a risk publicizing it.
Yeah, for sure. That's kind of funny to think about. Anyway, just a fun, fluffy story from the week that I thought you guys might be interested in learning about if you didn't catch it on SIFTD during the week.
Damn, this footage old.
It's not that old, I don't think. Like 2 years, I think.
Showing Biomutant, it's pretty old.
Well, this is like, there's Dark Cloud. Yeah. This is their catalog of old games that they...
But
this B-roll is from when they changed the pricing. This is the B-roll of when they upped the price. This is the new tiers B-roll. So it's not that old. It's just they have old games on there because people want to play old games on PlayStation Plus. But anyway, there you go. That's a fun little story about PlayStation Plus. And then our final story for headlines for episode 410 is Ubisoft. Once again, we're here to laugh at Ubisoft. This week, it's the only publisher left in the industry that still thinks NFTs are a good idea. And it released an NFT-driven game called Champions Tactics this week. And it has turned out to be an unmitigated disaster. The problem when you deal with blockchain, NFT, crypto in any of your games is that when people play, it's money on the line. It's not just like ones and zeros or some like, oh, you got a glitch and now you have to replay 5 minutes of the game because it wasn't saved. When you get glitches in games like this or issues with games like this, sometimes players lose money, like real money. And some of the characters, and there's a character in this game, Matt, that's like $60,000 or something outrageous. And what happened is...
He better be pretty good.
He better dominate the game. But what happened is this, over the weekend, the server started filling up and the game just completely crapped the bed. And if you booted up the game, it would take you to a head-to-head match against this same human player. And he would win automatically every time. So you'd boot up, you get thrown into this match against this player, he would win, and if you boot up, it just happened over and over again, and it happened to everybody. And again, when you have games that are based on NFTs and money, that ain't cool. Like, you have to have your stuff locked down hardcore before that game ever launches. And truth be told, Ubisoft's been talking about NFT crap now for like 2 or 3 years, so probably it did have enough time to develop the game, but with Ubisoft's development track record right now, Matt, like, there's no guarantee that anything it puts out is going to be bug-free.
Well, so you want to talk about being a day late and $1 short on the grift.
Oh, more than
give me a break.
Millions of dollars short. I don't know what's going on at Ubisoft, man. Like, it needs new leadership or something over there. It just seems like it's just spiraling out of control. So,
take it private and bring in somebody with some vision at this point. I mean, I don't know what.
Yeah.
I mean, it's everything they do. It seems like they just seem lost.
It really feels like they just can't do anything right at this point. It's bizarre. It's really crazy.
That one guy, I can't remember who it was. It was somebody who was leaking a bunch of stuff that was on their schedule, including like the like putting out like Assassin's Creed every 6 months.
What?
Assassin's Creed every 6 months. Far Cry 7, a new Ghost Recon, and a co-op extraction shooter called Far Cry Mavericks. That was what I read.
Huh. I didn't see that story.
And that they want to. I think it was just like a tweet.
Oh.
Of some
Nobody
guy.
reported on it. That's interesting.
Well, maybe it was nonsense.
Yeah.
It did read a little like.
I mean,
it does sound a little fan
every 6
fiction-y.
months is a big ask. Holy crap!
I mean, it didn't sound like they were doing full-fledged Assassin's Creed every 6 months, but it looked like Assassin's Creed content. Every like we'd get Shadows, and 6 months later maybe we'd get like the equivalent of those that China, India, Russia trilogy.
Yeah. The smaller indie-ish
and Invictus and Hexa were mentioned. Later, I think he backpedaled a little bit and maybe said, "Oh, maybe they meant a game from Ubisoft every 6 months, instead of Assassin's Creed every 6 months." It was unclear, but it was like.
I mean, that's what Ubisoft needs to turn it around.
Pretty much. I mean, the idea of a new Ghost Recon was interesting to me because like I felt like they'd throw Ghost Recon in because Breakpoint was sort of their breaking point on a lot of that stuff, and it feels like they would throw that back in the freezer forever again.
Yeah.
Which I think would be a mistake because Ghost Recon's good when you don't mess it up.
Well, yeah, if you just make a Ghost Recon game.
Yeah, if you just make Wildlands again, like you're gonna do all right.
Yeah. Because Wildlands sold like 20 million or something ridiculous. Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to. It wasn't all that long ago. The Ubisoft, every game it put out was doing
King
huge
of the Hill,
numbers.
In a way. And like everything was, I mean, that Predator DLC on Wildlands was great.
Yeah.
Like it was a great idea and it was executed really well.
Ubisoft does do good DLC.
They do.
Typically. Not always, but typically. Yeah.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, the Avatar DLC was pretty good.
Yeah.
We'll see what they the DLC for Far Cry 6 was not very good.
Yeah.
We'll see what they come up with for
Shadows and
Shadows.
And I don't know if Outlaws is going to get DLC.
Outlaws is too common.
You think it's going to happen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Lando one's already done. It's coming out in this month.
I'm just wondering if they made that one is like based on like the in-game game.
Yeah, it's a Sabacc tournament.
I wonder if the second one is going to undergo some changes now because of feedback.
I don't think so. I think the feedback was all about the stability and kind of the core thing of the game. There's supposed to be a big new patch coming, I think.
I think it launched yesterday, actually.
Yesterday? Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
They're
trying.
Not been paying attention.
They haven't given up, which is good.
I'll go back to it. I was like halfway through it. I'll go back to it when they patched up a bit when the Lando DLC comes out, probably.
Yeah.
Obviously, I got a couple other things to play right now.
Yeah, we sure do. And in fact, we're just about to start talking about one of those things, which is Dragon Age: The Veilguard. Before we get going into our reviews, I just want to remind you that we are sponsored 100% or supported 100% at patreon.com/SIFTD. That's SIFTD. For $4 a month, you get all our content early. This show 4 days early, Pack Your Factor a week early. All our other content at least 3 days early. If you don't want to go to Patreon, you can always subscribe here on Twitch as you're watching the show live right now. Or you can subscribe on YouTube. And I'll just say this, the deal there isn't quite as good as if you subscribe on our Patreon. We tried to do the best we could to make it even, but it was pretty much impossible with the way YouTube set it up. But I know some of you guys just want to stay on YouTube, and it's there. You get all our content early there as well. If you don't have any money, you can help us out with Twitch Prime. If you're watching on YouTube, go down below into the description right now. Check out how to do it and hook it up if you can. We'd really appreciate it. And before we get on to our first review, here's a word from our sponsor, and we all need it right now. LS Cream. LS Cream is a fine cream liqueur created by fellow gamer and sifter Stevens Charles. It's inspired by an ancestral recipe from Haiti called Cray Mass, and a double gold winner for its original taste at the New York Wine and Spirit International Competition. LS Cream can be enjoyed on the rocks or as a mixer for drinks with its rich blend of fresh cream and neutral grain spirits with notes of coconut, vanilla, cinnamon, and nutmeg. It's great in coffee or to make espresso martinis. To learn more, discover amazing drink recipes, or to track down your own bottle using a handy store locator, head to creamls.com/sifted. That's creamls.com/sifted. People, there has never been a better time for LS Cream than right now. I know everyone, after the show's over, I'm going to go home. Matt's going to be here. You guys are going to turn off the stream. You're probably going to turn on some news network to watch all the results of the election today. On your way home, even if you're at home right now, go out and get yourself a bottle of LS Cream.
While you're out voting.
Yeah, seriously. On your way home, stop and pick it up.
Don't bring it into the voting place. They don't like that.
Pick up something to mix with it on the way home and just sit there all night tonight and just sip LS Cream and keep your fingers crossed. Go to creamls.com/sifted. creamls.com/sifted before you leave, so you can figure out where the stores are locally where you can swing by and pick up your own bottle. I will say this, if you try to get it delivered, it's probably going to show up a little bit too late for the election, although maybe not, because they may be counting stuff for the next couple days. So even in that case, you might want to just order a bottle and have it shipped overnight. So go to creamls.com/sifted and drink away that voting day anxiety. Okay. And with that, it's time for our first review of GameFace 410. And we're talking about literally one of the biggest game releases of 2024. And that is Dragon Age the Veilguard for PC, PS5, and Xbox Series. All right, there's a lot to discuss with this game. First of all, maybe we should just share how far along we are, how much we've played. How long have you been playing, Matt?
Hard to say because I keep leaving it on and coming back to it, but I think I'm about between 20 and 25 hours.
I'm at around 20 hours, so we're roughly in the same spot.
But from what I have been told by my sister, I am not halfway through the game.
Really?
Like, there's a big halfway point, big thing, and she alluded to it, and I am not there yet.
Okay.
I have all the companions.
Okay.
I have the whole team's assembled, and I've done some stuff after that, but I am not at the big, like, all is lost moment.
Okay, coming. I'm not either. I'm about 20 hours into it. I have spent every moment I possibly could playing this game since I got it. Sacrificing sleep. I slept like 4.5 hours last night. So here we are to talk about Dragon Age the Veilguard. We should probably first talk about the plot of the game. If you remember, this game was originally called Dragon Age Dreadwolf. And that's because the plot is all centered around the Dreadwolf.
Yeah.
And the Dreadwolf is basically trying...
I can kind of understand why they changed the Veilguard because you are the Veilguard.
Right.
Like the focus of the game is more on you and your companions doing what you're doing,
right,
rather than Solus.
Yeah.
So I get, Dreadwolf is kind of like a cooler name.
Yeah.
But I get why they changed it, like in terms of tone.
I think they made the right choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that I've played the game, it makes more sense.
Clearly, it didn't hurt.
Yeah.
So.
And basically what's happening is the Dreadwolf is performing a ceremony where he is trying to...
He's trying to tear the veil down.
Right.
In the Dragon Age world, it's weird that there's people that are saying that this doesn't connect up enough to the previous games, because if you haven't played the previous games, I don't know how you're going to know what's going on in any of this shit. In the Dragon Age world, there is the real world and there is the Fade. The Fade is where demons come from. It's where magic comes from. It's kind of the source of all the weird shit in the world.
It's an alternate reality, basically.
The thing that separates the Fade from reality is the Veil.
Yep.
And in Dragon Age Inquisition, it is revealed that the Veil was created by the Dreadwolf thousands of years ago to prevent the ancient elven gods from using it to basically destroy everything. So he trapped them in a particular place in the Fade, but he believes that creating the Veil has ruined reality, so he wants to tear down the Veil and unleash the Fade into reality and basically start the world over, which he doesn't do with malice, but will probably kill everybody. And so you're trying to stop him.
And you do.
With Varric, the dwarf who is the framing device for Dragon Age 2 and a companion in Dragon Age 3.
Yep.
He's leading your kind of little team.
You're a Veilguard, basically.
Yeah. Well, you aren't Veilguard yet.
Yet.
You're just like Varric's team.
He's like
trying to hunt him down.
Yeah.
And
he's kind of like the Professor X, basically. He's like the guy who can't, he's like injured and stays back at base, and
he come
back from missions.
He ends up being injured in that fight, and he just sort of sits around and limps around and says 2 lines, says, "Oh, I gotta go rest again." It's like, the Varric, I know it's 10 years later, and he's like supposed to be older. The Varric I know would have just fucking gone for it.
Yeah.
What
happens is he's in the middle of tearing down the Veil, and you interrupt, and what happens is 2 gods basically escape. Mm-hmm. And then the game, at least what I played so far, I don't know what moment happens in the middle of the game. What I played so far, the goal is basically to stop the 2 gods.
Yeah.
And reseal them back in the Fade. And the Dreadwolf is stuck in that alternate reality.
Yeah, he's stuck basically in the prison he intended for the elven gods.
Right. But you can visit that prison, and you have you go there and talk with him and have these conversations where you try to convince him of things, and
Well, you can choose to either like hold him accountable or try to convince him that he's not that person.
Right.
Or like it seems like you can really decide how you want to handle Solus.
Well, people liked Solus before this happened.
Yeah.
Like, he was friends with pretty much everyone on your squad, but then he decides to do this, and, like, he does try to rationalize it. He's, like, saying, like, well, it was, like, the lesser of two evils, and at a certain point he tells you that, like, he had fail-safes in place to make sure if stuff escaped from the Veil that they would be able to take care of it. But because you interrupted him, it screwed everything up.
So maybe only hundreds of thousands
Right.
of people would have died instead of millions.
But ultimately, he's a bad guy. He made a wrong decision and did something really stupid. You tried to stop him, and now you're trying to clean up his mess. That's essentially the plot so far that I've experienced.
He's an immortal elven mage who sort of like, he doesn't, these creatures who live like 80 years doesn't mean much to him.
Right.
But it kind of did, because he kind of became a little more humane by hanging out with the Inquisition people in Inquisition.
Yeah.
It's an interesting conflict depending on how much you care about Solus from the original game. I do, but you get to see flashbacks of when he did all this stuff with the and imprisoned them and had his conflict with the ancient gods back in the day, and I believe he did it because he developed elf pattern baldness. Because in the flashbacks he has hair.
That's hilarious.
So that is my theory so far. Was he lost his hair and that made him mean.
Well, your first goal actually is to create this super team, the Veilguard, and I'm 20 hours in. I think I have also completed my team at this point.
Do you have the Necromancer and the Dragon's Hunter?
Yep.
Then you got it.
Yeah. And so that's 20 hours of the game is just forming the squad. And then obviously you're going to use that squad to try to seal the demons. And even it took me a good 15 or 16 hours before I even saw one of the gods that had escaped. It's right before the very first boss fight with the first dragon. You finally meet one of the gods. So this story is like really elongated.
There they are.
Yeah. It's really elongated, but in between, like, I feel like the game does a pretty good job of keeping things interesting between the big beats.
Well, it's been compared to Mass Effect 2 a lot, and I do see that. I definitely see the compare. Like, I always describe Mass Effect 2 as a short story collection. Like the companion, each companion's like squad mate's quest line is sort of a short story in and of itself, and then you have the framing device of the suicide mission, sort of setting it up, creating the midpoint complication, and finishing the whole thing. This is not that structured. Like, the overarching story is not as incidental as the suicide mission is in Mass Effect 2. The overarching story is the main point. But it does, like, the relationships between the characters on the team are definitely one of the focal points. And I've only done a couple of the companion, like, quests to, like, what I think is more or less the conclusion. But they tend to end in some real nasty choices.
I mean, there's already been a bunch of tough choices.
Been a few, but like they go for it in this, and so like I do think, as opposed to Mass Effect, opposed to Dragon Age Inquisition, where like you'd hit things with these characters, where like you do their character request, like one little quest, and then they just say the same thing for the rest of the game. Especially Varric was like that. Because that is pretty fresh in my mind, like that. The fact that everything that happens feels like much more naturally organic in terms of how it develops and their relationships with each other develop. There's a lot more interplay between the various characters, and they have relationships with each other to the point that you can even like back out a couple times. Like, there's a couple times where you see like two of these characters kind of hitting it off with each other, and you can kind of either stay in the conversation and be like, I'm just going to let you guys mix it up among yourselves because you're clearly vibing.
You're clicking.
So
I feel like the romance stuff in this took a long time to show up. Like, just at like the 20-hour mark, I finally got to give a gift to somebody for the first time.
I've given a few gifts. You have to find them in the market stuff.
Yeah.
They just pop up and you don't know where they are.
You
stumble across them.
Right, and who they're for.
You know who they're for, but they're labeled gifts. So if you didn't happen to turn around the corner and see what, because like the merchants are kind of not very interesting. I mean, it's very rare that there's something you're like, oh, I want that. It's usually just like a bunch of junk. And
well, it's also weird because like
some really bad exchange rate gold.
Yeah, because you can only sell your stuff to the faction merchants. There's regular merchants, but you can only buy from them.
Yeah.
And if you want to sell all your stuff, and there's a lot of junk to sell in this game, you can only sell it to the faction merchants.
But no inventory limit.
Right,
so,
which is great. I have no problem with that.
Actually, I don't know if there's an inventory limit on the actual like weapons and accessories and stuff, because it looks like there's a limited number of squares.
You're right.
I just haven't filled it up. But there's no limit to what quote unquote valuables.
Yeah.
Like you can pick up random junk to sell forever, and then you go to whichever faction because every time you sell stuff at the faction, you gain faction points, and so that unlocks more stuff they'll sell, and maybe more importantly, raises your. I get the impression they're sort of doing a what was it in Mass Effect 3? You had sort of the galactic kind of battle readiness markers,
where I forgot about those.
Galactic readiness or something like that. I feel like they're doing that with these factions. Like the higher you're allied with these factions, the more that will play into the big finale. Just who's going to team up with you, and who might die or who might survive, kind of thing.
One thing I will say is that, like, even in this early going, there are big time consequences. So here in this early mission, I rewound the B-roll just to show you here in a minute something that pops up. You choose who you want to take on the mission with you. And I chose to have Neve, I think is her name, go with me, Nev. Yeah. And she gets hurt. And I didn't think anything of it. I'm like, oh, she got hurt. It's a video game. People get hurt on missions, and let's go on the next mission. Everybody's fine. No. The next time you come back here, you see her. She is beat up. Her whole face is like purple and bruised, and I'm like, "Whoa!" Like, okay,
it takes a while to heal.
Yeah, right here is a shot of it. Look, so her face is that way because I chose to take her on a mission with me, and I'm like, so then this happens, and I see her face, and I feel terrible about it, and actually adds some weight to the decision that I had made, and then the game goes on for the next like 6 or 7 hours, and the bruises slowly disappear across like 7 hours.
Yeah, as you progress through the main story, she heals slowly.
It's insane. Like,
and she still has a little mark on her forehead.
When she's all healed up, she has a scar on her forehead afterwards. Like,
it's a nice touch.
It really is, because it scene after scene, it reminds you that the decisions that you're making have huge ramifications, and it could literally maybe kill somebody the next time. It made me start paying close attention when I started making decisions. That happens very early in the game. It's like the first major decision you make. Yeah. And I saw that, and as the hours went on and she was still beat up and bruised like 3 hours later, I was like, all right, I need to make sure I'm really paying attention to like some of this stuff. Like, I had gotten to the point where I was just kind of like playing it with like music on and no subtitles, and I started missing story stuff. And then once I started seeing her face persist across hours, I was like, okay, I need to turn on the subtitles. I need to turn it up because I could miss important stuff that could get somebody killed. And so that part of the BioWare games is in full effect here. And I think that they've done it pretty well. One thing I've not been able to figure out yet, Matt, is why the chuds hate this game.
Because
I can't figure it out.
Because there's a lot of non-white people in it. And because
it's a freaking fantasy game.
And because
they're blue.
You can be, I'm not done yet. Because you can be a trans character in it, and because you can give your character top surgery scars. They think it's woke.
Who cares? I didn't even notice that stuff.
Racists and bigots.
You'd have to dig into the game to find that stuff. I played the game. I didn't even see any of it.
But they're like, that's not the point. Most of these people didn't even play the game at all.
Right.
Like, that's not the point. Like, no one's doing that. They certainly haven't played fucking Dragon Age because everyone's talking about how Dragon Age has gone woke, and I'm just like, motherfucker.
It's always been.
There was DLC in the first game that was entirely about lesbians.
Yeah.
Realizing they were lesbians. Yeah. And then there was another DLC in that same first game where someone gets yelled at for misgendering a stone golem.
Yeah.
Like, where the fuck
have you been? These people are just so pathetic.
There was a guy, I don't remember who it was, but one of those fucking grifter streamers is sitting there screaming like, oh, see, I picked the thing and now I'm forced to be a trans character because all the different options are like, it tells you that this unlocks your character as transgender and it will change your dialogue. But and he just scrolls around, he's like, I can't get out. There's a back option right fucking there, you fucking moron.
I wonder if like these people realize how stupid they look to everybody else.
I mean, the grifters know what they're doing. They're
manipulating.
They're manipulating it and I mean, the guy was scrolling over the back option multiple times while complaining about him. Like, he knew what he was doing. He knew he was lying. He knew he was not doing that right. But it doesn't matter because the fucking chuds that are the fucking targets here, the people that like pay them Patreon money to keep reinforcing their bigotry, like, are the ones who are going to be like, because like, I'll tell you, man, like, I am a dyed in the wool Dragon Age, not hater, but I don't like Dragon Age as much as Mass Effect. I think Dragon Age is not BioWare's best work, despite being its best selling work. This game's fucking great.
I really like it.
This is one of the best things I've played all year, maybe one of the best things I've played in a couple years. I cannot believe this is the Frostbite engine. Like, this thing feels rock fucking solid. Yeah. It runs at 155 frames a second with everything maxed out in 4K on my computer.
It runs great on my PS5 too.
Not a single crash, not a single bug, not a single weird thing, nothing. This thing is and like it. I like all the characters in it. Everything feels well written, at least as well written as any other Dragon Age has been. Everything feels big and concrete and there and real in a way that nothing in Dragon Age ever has before. It feels like this is finally Dragon Age gets to be as epic as it's always thought it is. Mm-hmm. You know, there's like vistas and like every fucking elven ruin looks like it's been there for 1,000 years, and it's these thick concrete walls in like Inquisition. You're hopping around like a crazy person up all these weird inclines, and all the scenery looks like a high school play. Like everything's about to fall over because it's made of cardboard. This thing looks like real shit. It's so good.
I just wonder if they ever stop and wonder why they're always so miserable. Like, do they ever just take a minute and be like, why am I always so angry
I don't know.
and upset? And do they ever look at like the people that they're giving the Patreon money to or they're subscribing to on YouTube, and they don't realize that those people are manipulating them? How do they not see it?
I don't know.
It's so sad. But anyway, I'll just be honest with you. As someone who just played the game, I didn't find anything that I thought those people would find as woke. Like, I guess I didn't dig into the character creation tool deep enough.
I mean, it's all there. I mean, well, look, there's you know, all the most of the characters you team up with are not white, and there's a lot of girls.
They're like blue, and like green, and
like the one girl is Asian, and and Nev is black, and I guess Harding is a dwarf. Does that count? I don't know what that is.
I don't understand what they think they're going to accomplish. Do they think video games are going to go to a place where it's just all white men in every game?
That is what they would.
Why would they want that?
They want it to just be all white men or all like cheesecake, like Stellar Blade shit.
Like just chicks with outrageously large boobs. Yeah.
I even saw some people complaining that that Dragon Age is supposed to be dark fantasy and dark fantasy, so there shouldn't be any jokes in it. And I'm like, again, have you ever played these games? Because
go outside.
Shale is one of the funniest characters ever. Like, do you think they were being dark fantasy serious when the dwarven enchanter guy's enchanter guy's son in the first game can only say enchantment?
Right.
Like, it's fucking a joke. It's a joke.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy.
But anyway, just so you know, like, as somebody who's just playing the game and not looking for stuff like that, I didn't even see any of it. Like, I don't know. I mean, there's weird-looking aliens in the game. Is that a step too far? I don't know. These people are insane, as far as I'm concerned. But if you are concerned about stuff like that, I'm just letting you know, like, I didn't see any of it. So these people are digging into this game to try to find it. It's not, like, overt. Let's talk about the nuts and bolts of the game, though. There are just 3 main classes, which seems weird at first.
I think it is overt in the sense that it's right there for you to choose. Like, when you create your character, you can create the character to be male, female, or non-binary, or you can choose their pronouns and what they call. You know, you can make a totally male-looking character and have that character called she or they.
I don't even notice stuff like that.
Right, but like, if for someone who is trans or non-binary, like, they would see that.
Oh yeah, I don't want people to think that if okay, I see where you're coming from now. Like, I don't want to scare those people off thinking that they're not represented in the game.
No,
they are.
This is some of the best trans representation I think I've ever seen.
Right, but it's not like in your face. Like, I didn't pick up that vibe at all. I saw that it was in there.
No, it's not. I mean, it's in your face in the sense that it's an obvious option right in front of you if you're looking for it. Yeah. But it's not like you have to like put a fucking Konami code in to not be non-binary. Like, it's not a thing. Like it defaults to he, and you're just I mean, it's only there if you want to scroll through it, just like on Starfield. Like, the only way to know that when the giant human thumb baby like screamed about pronouns for like 5 minutes. You have to scroll through all the pronouns to see that. Also, a lot of these people don't know that pronouns are a basic like
part
form
of English
language. Like there was a woman who was almost got a school board. They almost got a school classroom shut down because they were doing pronouns. They don't know that pronouns are a part of language. They think they were made up by LGBT people.
I mean, Matt, if they were intelligent, they wouldn't be that way in the first place.
Right, exactly. If they were smart, they wouldn't be bigots.
They wouldn't be this way. Yeah, that's the way it is. So anyway, let's get into the nuts and bolts of the game. There are 3 main classes. When I first started playing, I was like, wow, only 3 classes in this game? But you realize very quickly, well, you don't realize quickly, but at level 20, you finally get the ability to initiate a subclass. And that's when you realize that, like, the way they've done classes in this is freaking genius. So they start with the 3 base classes. They give you, I don't know, like 15 hours or something. It took me to get to level 20, something like that. And to learn the basics of your class. And then you get to the point where you can start adding specializations. And there are 3 specializations for each of the 3 classes. So ultimately, by the time you get to level 20, you have 9 classes to choose from, basically. And I'm not exaggerating by saying that. Like, the specializations drastically change the base class into, you can even turn a mage into a melee character using the specializations.
Yeah, the one, I can't remember the name of it, but the bottom one is basically like a dagger fighter, like a dagger lightning fighter.
Now, you can turn the mage into someone who attacks with melee, but when they land the attacks, they're all magic attacks.
Yeah. Because I'm a mage, and I can switch between my 2-handed staff, which casts, distance, projectiles like a normal, or I can switch to the orb and dagger, where I can send the orb around, and the orb builds up arcane bomb stacks on the enemies, and then if I stab them with the dagger, all the arcane bombs explode.
Yeah.
So it's like it
gets insane.
It's almost like a weird rogue class.
It is a little bit, yeah.
So there's a lot of variety even inside of one class, and
even though there is a rogue class.
Oh yeah,
and there's mage,
they've got
rogue,
a bunch
and warrior
of stuff in there too.
Yeah.
I almost picked the rogue.
There's the scar on her forehead.
I almost picked the rogue because when I saw that there was a turret class, because that seemed cool. They've never done that before.
I love turret classes. That's my jam.
But I will say that this is one of the most drastic combat system improvements I have ever seen from game to game. Like, the fighting in this game is so much better than all the other 3 put together. It's not, because if you remember the Inquisition's combat is basically hold the R trigger and every once in a while trigger a skill.
Yeah.
It's got combos, it's got aerial attacks, it's got crit stuff that is related to it's an action RPG.
The combat's insane.
It's a straight up action RPG. To the point that I have never played a warrior in this series, but when I replay this later, and I will replay it at some point, I'm sure, I think I'll be a warrior. It feels to me like the combat would be pretty good as the melee combat in this series has never been particularly interesting.
It's been abysmal, pretty much.
And it looks like this is a huge leap. For that.
Now, when you do get to the specializations, that's when they become skill point free. You don't need skill points to increase them, but with the specializations, you get a new ultimate, a new ability. You get 2 ability upgrades, 2 traits, and 8 total passives just for your specialization. So again,
you still got to buy all those,
right? But again, when you boot it up, you're like, what? Just 3 classes? Hang tight. Eventually the game opens up and you'll have more ways to basically create the character that you want than you could ever imagine.
And they show you all these things when you choose the class.
Yep.
You don't go in blind.
Yep. As far as equipment is concerned, you have 2 main weapon sets. You have a shield, you have armor, you have a helm, you have a potion belt, which is basically your ability to heal. There's an amulet, you have 2 rings, and then there's 3 runes that you can collect that you insert into the Dreadwolf's dagger, because we left that out when we talked about the plot. You end up going back and rescuing the dagger, and that becomes an important part of the plot and the gameplay.
And also is an important callback to one of the older games.
Yeah, yep. So you saw the skill trees already. It's gigantic. But what I like about it, Matt, is how you can see the whole thing, and it tells you what everything is, and you can figure out what you want and then snake your path to exactly what you want. You can kind of just plot your way around the tree.
And most of the upgrades are actually pretty good.
So a lot of them are awesome.
There are very few just I got plus 2%. But this isn't Final Fantasy shit.
Yep.
You're not increasing magic by 2%. You're like, no, you're increasing your mana regen by 25%.
It makes it a difference. Real you feel it right
also,
away.
You know what else I appreciate about that tree? Everything is 1 point.
Yep. All the same points. You can also respec it anytime you want.
Free respecs whenever you want.
Refund it and just completely redo
play around
it if you
with
want to.
Whatever. You also get to upgrade your companions.
Yep.
As they get bonded with you more. They don't level up really. The way you level up, they level up their bond with you, and then you can change and They have, I have mostly leveled up their abilities that do the setup and detonate stuff. The prime and detonate.
We'll get to that because
the elemental things.
Yeah,
but there's a lot of free. They have a bunch of stuff. They go down a bunch of those trees. You get choices.
Their trees are much smaller.
They're much smaller, but you still have decisions to make. Each one has at least 2 sections, which are if you pick this version of the skill, you can't pick the other version of it.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting, they really worked hard to give this game interesting choices on just about every level.
They succeeded.
And it's in there.
Yep. So the game is an open world environment, but once you take on a quest, the game becomes linear, basically.
Yeah, it is, like they said it was very mission driven, and it is, but it is kind of like Inquisition in that you go to all these different places and they're sort of a big place to explore. The difference is that in Inquisition, they're big, like the hinterlands is a big kind of empty, like sprawling thing that was so big people didn't even realize they weren't here the whole game. They could go other places.
Yeah.
These are smaller compared to, like, say, the hinterlands, but there's just as much to do and explore. They are packed with stuff to do, and slowly they open up more and more as you progress through the game, and you get more characters. You can activate more because every companion has a special ability that can activate stuff in the environment, and you can use all of them all the time. They don't have to be in the party. It's so fucking good.
There is one case where there isn't, though. When you meet that one party member with the big horns, and she has that ability where she can, like, turn rocks into, like, platforms or whatever. That first platform you jump up, you go up there, and there's a context-sensitive thing that you cannot actually trigger. Yeah. Yep, I noticed that. It was the first time it happened to me. Where I didn't have, they wouldn't, like, let me use it. So, like, every once in a while, you'll get to an object, and you go up to it, and you hit R1, and it'll show you that one of the members of your party can interact with it and do something with it. And, like, that worked for pulling the platform out with her. But then I jumped up on the platform, went up there, and there was another one, and it would not trigger it.
Were you standing on it?
No, I moved all around and tried to do it. It said you don't have the person you need for that in the R1 menu.
Then you didn't have the companion yet.
Oh, interesting.
Because I ran into a couple things. The horned girl couldn't move around. Because she can breathe fire. So I ran into some pots that it was like, you don't have the commander for this yet.
Yeah. So that just means I didn't have that.
You didn't have
memory
that character
yet
at all.
Okay.
You can always activate everybody's special, like, environment thing, whether they're in the party or not. As long as you've done, like, there's a couple characters that don't get their ability until later, and you have to do a solo quest with them that, like, gives them that ability.
Yeah.
So that might be, but actually no, that's not even true, because one of the characters, the character that can move rocks, she was doing that before I went on the quest where she learns how to do that. That trigger seemed to happen already just as soon as that, before you even did the quest where she learns how to control that. So I was already solving puzzles with that already.
Okay.
But I remember the first time I ran into an environment thing where I realized I had to use Belara to fix, like, a arcane object. I'm like, oh my god, I gotta go back to a fast travel. And it was like, no, just do the thing. I'm like, oh,
nice.
We got radio. Great. It's like awesome. It's basically the dagger. The dagger lets you channel their special ability. I'm just like, thank God for this fucking dagger.
They found a contrivance for it.
I love it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it.
Okay, let's talk about the combat. So it is a hack and slash. At least I play as a warrior, so I'm playing it mostly hack and slash. He has a roll, an evasive roll. He has a block. You can do perfect blocks. It'll stagger enemies and let you jump in.
Mage has all that, except, like, with me, I put up a shield, but it works the same way. I can do a perfect block too. With it. I mean, like a bubble.
Oh, okay. Like a magic
a magic bubble.
Gotcha. Okay.
And taking hits on it lowers my mana. It eats up mana, so they can break through the shield if I'm not careful. I can dodge roll and I can teleport. And when I teleport, if I do an attack, a light attack afterwards, I do a special, like extra attack with the staff that will usually stagger somebody.
Okay.
So it's like a good interrupt.
So that's important. Staggering is a big part of this game. So every enemy has a stagger meter, and you can choose, like, which path you want to go down. Do you want to be a big damage dealer, or do you want to be a big stagger dealer? Because if you stagger an enemy, a prompt will come up to click the right stick, and you basically just do a finishing move.
Yeah, I have not specialized in stagger too much as a mage. Because,
I tried.
Because you got to be close, and I'm generally not very close.
That's not a good idea. Yeah.
I will, if it happens, I will sprint in there and do. She usually does, like, a running jump kick, and I'm just like, I don't know how much that would really hurt a giant demon. It's just like a little mage doing that, but it's very satisfying.
Yeah,
like, you get it. It's a fun thing.
Well, the skill tree is gigantic for your character, and you learn just so many moves. Now you can only have 4 basically equipped at a time. And so you have your traditional, like, hack and slash melee combat you're used to in pretty much every action RPG.
3 and your super.
Right. Yeah, of the 4 that you can. And then what happens is, and you'll start seeing it in the B-roll here, the for me at least, the vast majority of combat I spend using the R1 menu. And basically what that does is it lets you control your crew. And Matt alluded to it earlier. There is this system where you prime and then detonate enemies. And your party member... Right, here we go. Let me pause this very quickly. So, see in the bottom left there where it says shred? See how it says sundered underneath there? That means that you can basically tag the enemy. And then if you have another character that can detonate, if you choose shred, and then whatever their detonate ability is, it does this crazy super attack. They team up.
And it will tell you when two characters synergize that way. When you pick your character for your party, it says applies sundered, detonates weakened, etc., etc. And then when you have them in this menu, they'll flash.
It'll tell
the
you
things that so you can pick them both at the same time, and they will apply to the same enemy and just make it happen. They will also flash your abilities if one of your abilities exploits a weakness that the monster you're targeting has. Like, it's very friendly.
The one thing I will say about it, and maybe I'm just missing something here, but what I found is that, like, once I found two characters that would prime and detonate, I really struggled to choose any of the other characters. Because some of these fights are hard, man. I found this game to be pretty challenging. Like, the only attacks that you can do that really take a huge chunk of damage are those team-up attacks. The
big
prime
guys,
and detonate.
but again, like, there are a bunch of different combos. And... You can go in and learn your own skills to detonate. Like, that's what I've started to do, is I've learned my own skills to detonate just about anything.
Yeah.
So whoever's in my party, I will always be able to detonate with Rook.
Yeah. That's a good idea, actually. I haven't done that.
And actually, that's why is your character named Rook?
I think it's because you're the rookie, maybe, but
that's
you're
not.
not.
I kept thinking, but is Varric just being kind of a dick and calling you the rookie?
I think so.
Or am I named after the bird? Or am I named after the castle,
piece?
the chess piece? Like, I don't know. Like, is there chess in this
I don't
world?
think
I don't think so. Because at a certain point, when you're leading the team against the eldritch things that are challenging the fabric of reality, I feel like I should get a name other than Rook.
Eth Demon says, I know a bunch of reviewers turned down the difficulty. I haven't, but
I'm playing on normal. Like,
me too. It's hard. There's hard parts of it.
It's a good level of challenge.
I think it's well balanced.
And you can also run into, like, I think just about everybody who's playing, because very early on when you're in the crossroads are like kind of where there's these mirrors that in the other games were super rare things no one ever had really even seen before, and in this one they're just fucking everywhere.
Yeah.
That's what happens when elder gods get involved, I guess. But you go to the crossroads, which is sort of like these otherworldly place that, like, where all the mirrors go, and like you can kind of like, it's like Wonderland, I guess.
Where did all the mirrors go?
But
there's one of the finishers.
But you get a bunch of these quests to, like, open these like grown over, like, entryways to things, and basically you have to defeat these guardians in the other worlds, the other areas you go to, and in one of the areas you can access the guardian pretty early, but when I was like level 9, and I'm like, the guard, I'm gonna fight. He comes out and he's level 25.
Oh, geez.
And I was like, oh no. And I did get his armor down.
Wow.
We got his armor down, but then you got into his health, because his armor, they can have armor or magic barrier, and you get that down, and then you fight their health. Yeah. And the health was going.
Chippy.
I'm like, okay, I could conceivably win this fight, but it's gonna take an hour.
I found about this,
so I ended up retreating.
Yeah.
But like. It's the game is not afraid to. I've run into a couple places where I went exploring because there's so many places to poke your head in.
Yeah,
and
you're rewarded for it too. You find stuff that's worth something
everywhere.
It's worth stuff too. It's not crap.
No,
it's
not
worth
bad
something.
Stuff.
You get rewarded for poking around in this game. I love it.
You get rewarded for blowing up pots.
Yeah,
like I have destroyed more pots in this than Link. Okay, like go around just because like my I don't know what R trigger does with the warrior.
Which trigger? Like R2 or R1?
Right trigger.
R2... I don't remember. That's a good question, actually.
Because on the mage, R2 is just a beam of energy. It's just their projectile.
Oh, R2 throws a shield.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, Captain America.
Yeah,
sure.
it's totally Captain America. Yeah.
But you shoot a beam of... It's your projectile attack, basically. Yeah. So you just do that on, like, all the shelves of pots you run into, and it'll just give you gold and trinkets and...
Yeah.
Like,
there's stuff in those pots.
Early on, it's one of the best ways to destroy every pot. Unlike From Software... BioWare put something in all that crockery, and it's always worth blowing up all the pots you see, because you're going to get some fun stuff.
Yeah, so my two issues are the one I mentioned, where I just keep selecting the same party members because they can do the prime and detonate, so I just keep taking those same 2 characters with me on everything.
Once I got enough of them, I kept mixing and matching with the different ones.
Yeah, I need to develop my own character to have
look, when you do the character select, just look at, like, they say what they all do, what they apply, and what they detonate.
Yeah.
Just pick
I need to start building my character to do that.
Strongly recommend the Dragon Hunter and the Necromancer, because the Dragon Hunter has a lot of problems with necromancy, and a lot of their banter is very funny.
Oh, okay. And then my other issue is that, per Eve Demon's comment, it is a challenging game.
Yeah.
And what I found is, like, the way to win the game is to just kind of run away. Like, you let your 2 partners just keep attacking, and then you just kind of run away, and if they catch you, you use some health, or you have one of your magic casters, your mage, heal you. But, like, to me, the game encouraged me to disengage. I would just run around, I would wait for the prime and detonate to recharge, and I'd do it. I'd jump in when they do the big attack, because you get a bonus when you jump in at the right time on that. Take a huge chunk of their health off, run away. Run around until it recharges, do it again. I don't do it the whole time. I only do it in, like, really challenging skirmishes, but it did become a crutch for me in this game, where I'm just like, it's encouraging me to, like, not engage and let my party members do all the heavy lifting.
Yeah, I haven't really run into that. Partly because I'm not in the thick of it, because I'm not a fighter.
You're casting from far away anyway.
Casting far away. Generally, they do not live long enough to get near me.
Yeah.
I've run into things, sometimes I'll run into things where, like, an enemy can teleport, and they'll pop in where I am, and I gotta, like, basically do my teleport dash away from them for, like, the whole time until...
Yeah.
And sometimes, like, that's my fault. Like, I need to remember to, like, select the right bumper thing and tell my allies to attack the thing that's attacking me, to pull him off me, because I keep expecting them to do it automatically, because in Inquisition they did.
Yeah.
The other thing I will say, as a mage, one of the constant issues is ranged attacks from the enemies, because they are constantly lobbing shit at you. And you don't really want to block it. You want to dodge it, because blocking takes mana, and that means you're not going to be able to fire off your spells.
Yeah.
But I will say, first off, that you get a little dotted line that changes color when the projectile is incoming, no matter what. So you always know kind of when you're about to get hit. And the iframes on the dodge are huge. So you usually, as long as you press the button, you're dodging it. The other thing is, your companions constantly call out where all the threats to you are, and they're really good at it.
They are.
Like,
to your right. And sure enough,
on your right, and they're right there. I'm
like,
all I got to do is listen to what they said and dodge away from it, and, like, you're good. Like, I have rarely seen, like, party banter, like, during combat that was actually integral to the combat, like, success, but it actually is happening here.
There's great moments like that.
There's
impressed. Great moments with the visuals. Like, there was one time I was in a fight. It was like one of those arenas where you're fighting a big creature and they kind of close everything off. And in the center, there was, like, this massive tree trunk. And I jumped in to do, like, a jump and slash, and they blocked it. And it ricocheted my character model off, and my character model did a wall run on the side of the damn tree trunk, Matt. I was like, okay. And then I started noticing little stuff like that throughout the game. Like, there's cool stuff hidden in this game, man. And the more you play it, the more you start uncovering it. And again, we were talking earlier about, like, a lot of games you play like this, you run to all these nooks and crannies of the world, and you get just some stupid, crappy resource. You get rewarded for poking around in this game. It is worth your time to find all those hidden recesses, all those hidden areas, because you can actually find, like, the best shield you've had in the game, the best weapon you've had in the game doing that. And that, to me, is very integral. It encourages exploration. I feel like every game should do that, not just this game. So that is another thing that I was really impressed with. Visually, I've been playing it on PS5. You're watching the B-roll. It looks great. There are definitely stunning moments in this game where you just come up over a little vista and you can see way out, and you're just like, whoa. This game even caught my wife's eye several times. She'd walk by and be like, wow.
It looks really good.
Oh, yeah. Like, the coloring in this is incredible. The colors that they choose for everything, just awesome. Like, it's not, like, the best-looking game on PS5, but it's one of the better third-party games, better-looking third-party games on PS5.
I've constantly been impressed by the vistas and like I said, it looks as epic fantasy as Dragon Age has always wanted you to think it looked.
Yeah.
And everything feels very real. Everything feels very concrete and present, and, like, things make sense. Like, you can look around at stuff and like there's, like, puzzles where you'll see things and you're like, okay, there's the last thing I need to activate with a beam from somewhere. So where the beam thing has to be over there. So let's go over there, and there it is. You'll find it over there.
The logic is there.
It's really well done. The architecture is different everywhere. The cities feel very
all
individual.
Different. You feel like you're going to a new place every time you go someplace. Yeah,
like it's really fucking good.
It really is good. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely on my short list for Game of the Year.
Yeah.
Now I need to play more.
100%.
Like I'm only 20 hours in, and I want to play more. I'm really excited
also,
to play
as
more.
I understand, I mean, from the people I know who are further than I am, they're like, for the people, like, of all the criticisms people are having of the game, the people that are saying that it's not dark enough dark fantasy, keep going.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, I don't know what that means, but I'm in.
And look, I'm not a big Dark Souls player. This game is challenging, but it's pretty much perfect. Like you'll fight a boss 3 or 4 times before you figure out how to beat it. At least that's how it's worked for me.
Yeah, I don't I don't really agree with the complaints that the enemies have too much health. Like you
got to figure out how to
figure out how to deal with them. Yeah, but like other than some of the bosses, which are intentionally that tough.
Yep.
Like I fought another one of those guardians, and I was level 26. It was level 25. It kicked my ass.
Yeah.
Because we were in a tiny little fucking room, and I couldn't get away from it. Like that was the problem.
Yep.
If something's gonna set the ground on fire everywhere it moves, then I'm gonna need to come back with some different gear. Like that's just how it works.
Yeah.
But like generally, I burn through people. I mean, that might just be the mages are traditionally very overpowered in this series. But I feel pretty fucking strong.
Game scum saves for you.
Oh, the saving is crazy.
It's great.
It auto saves before and after every choice you make.
I pretty much stopped saving.
It's great. Yeah, same.
Manually saving. You don't need to.
And it's so stable and it never crashes. I've
had no bugs, no crashes.
I literally only manual save when I'm going to stop for the night.
Me too. That's when I'm about to turn off my PS5.
That is one of my biggest compliments I can give anything.
It's scum saves for you.
Yeah.
You don't have to keep constantly saving.
In part because I forget to save because I'm pulled into it.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking about it.
It's really great.
It's great.
I've had a blast with this game. I think I'm going to continue to have a blast with this game. So that's 2 thumbs up from GameFace.
It is so...
on Dragon Age, Veilguard.
AJ the Legend Watson, better game, Dragon Age or Baldur's Gate 3. I mean, for me, this is way better than Baldur's Gate because I didn't like Baldur's Gate very much.
That's a tough one for me.
I
love Baldur's Gate.
They are doing so completely different things.
Well, one's a turn-based RPG, one's an action RPG.
Yeah, exactly.
But, like, so far... Like, I haven't got into, like, the romancing stuff really yet, and that was excellent in Baldur's Gate 3. So right now, I would say they're kind of on equal footing for me, but for, like, different reasons. Like, typically, I would gravitate towards action-based combat instead of turn-based. But they do the turn-based combat so well in Baldur's Gate 3, and, like, some of the stuff I would fiddle around with and be like, oh, that worked. Like...
Yeah, I don't think Baldur's Gate 3 did it very well at all. Here's the dirty little secret of Dungeons and Dragons to me is when you strip away the social elements and the storytelling elements, you're left with what is basically not a very good turn-based RPG.
Yeah,
turn-based strategy.
I mean, it's all based on die rolls, so.
Right? It's too random.
Yeah.
And I think the conversations and role playing in Baldur's Gate 3 are too random because you're rolling on a D20 constantly, and like maybe you get to be an expert on something your character's an expert in, or maybe you roll a 1 and you have a 5% chance of auto failing everything. And like they make it more, they try to make it interesting.
They nerf that a little bit, though.
They try to make it interesting to like, they still give you different paths to go down, even if you failure doesn't mean you're stuck.
The end, yeah.
But it is annoying. I like this game better than Baldur's Gate 3.
I'm not surprised.
I think Baldur's Gate 3 is a more singular game. Like there are no other games that do what Baldur's Gate 3 does better than Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah. That's fair.
There are probably some action RPGs you will like better than this one.
Yeah.
But I do think this is the best Dragon Age game by a very wide margin. And I cannot believe this is the Frostbite engine.
It's like the best looking Frostbite engine ever. Best running.
I know it's 10 years later, but having just played Inquisition and just played about half of Andromeda, the fact that this is the same, a lot of the same, I can't even tell you, man. Like it's such a night and day difference. BioWare needed a home run on this one, and I think they hit a grand slam.
Pretty close, yeah.
Like it's really good.
Mighty Pony Girl says it was based on the chess piece. She says that they mention it, or Noxator Nightus says they mention it in the intro. I missed that somehow.
I didn't catch that.
Chevelle Man 1979, thank you for Twitch Prime, brother. Really appreciate it. Mighty Pony Girl says there was a notorious design doc years ago that had a red hook chest piece on the front, and it's also okay, that makes sense. What else we got here? And if you guys have questions for Veilguard, let us know right now because we're going to answer them. And if you're sitting on the fence wondering if you should buy it or not, we're here for you. Eat Demon says the reason they changed it wasn't because it was hard; it was just tedious with the amount of health enemies have. Okay. Khalib Twilight is asking, is it better than Metaphor Refantasio?
100%.
I don't know if he's asking about the combat or
he's
what.
He's saying the game.
Oh, the game in general.
So yes, Quickster is correct. This is the best hair I have ever seen in a game.
Oh yeah, how it moves.
The
and
hair
everything.
in this is unbelievably.
I also just like the stylized art as well. I think they did a good job with it.
I think it works for the most part.
By the way, they mentioned that they're not going to do that with Mass Effect. That it's not going to have a stylized visuals, which
that's fine.
Yeah, because they haven't in the past. How did you feel about the writing from Cinetype? Good.
It's
the
fine.
Voice acting spotty. There's some bad characters here and there, but generally it's pretty good.
Usually it's the supporting character. You know, the people you meet. There's a couple of rough performances from some of your quest givers, but like the main cast is really good. I like all the party members, and of course Varric and Solus are great. No, I have no issues with any of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I know people are like, this is the kind of the standard smoke screen for the chuds, though. It's like, oh, it's got bad writing. It's like, what does that mean? Well, you don't know what bad writing is. I can't help you. It's like,
you're qualified to
I just played
that.
Inquisition and Andromeda. The writing is about in the same realm as the two of those, which is not to say not the pinnacle of video game writing, but it's fine. It gets the job done just fine. And I've laughed out loud at a couple things, and I've had to sit there and stare at some of the choices before I made them a couple of times. Like, it's good. It's BioWare worthy, I would say.
Drifter J asks, can you tell there's leftover parts of the live service in there? I cannot.
No. I wouldn't know where to tell you.
I wouldn't even know where it would be.
The only part of the live service I can discern is when you hit the button, the press any button at the title screen, it says connecting to online service, and then never says anything about it again.
And I don't even know why it's really connecting, but
it doesn't even open the EA app on the PC. Like, believe me, the other games all do.
Yep. Mighty Pony Girl, who are you going to romance? I'm going after Nev or Neve.
Nev is an option. I actually do like what's her name?
I hate to say going after.
Balara. I think she's fun. I mean, she's obviously like a scatterbrain genius thing, but she's cool.
I think we can relate to that a little bit.
A little bit. Yeah, those two are kind of I'm not into the boys really, but like I could see someone going for most of the guys. Like, most of the guys are pretty cool.
Yeah, I haven't really discovered any jerks in the cast.
They're all pretty cool.
Yeah,
I know there are people complaining that like the characters all get along too well, and like that you don't have to win them over to be part of the
conflict
team.
Or whatever.
And I get, but it's like it's kind of nice to have a group of professionals for change in one of these games.
I consider it a challenge that I almost killed Neve or Nev, and now I'm trying to romance her.
Well, also not everybody Balara doesn't really like what's his name with the demon.
Oh, right.
Because the crow guy is possessed by a demon named Spite who pops out and has some things to say. And she's not cool with that. The Kunari warrior woman isn't cool with a necromancer.
Right. There's some no-goes.
Some people have some questions about things, and you can and now there's an added complication where one of my choices made one of my characters hardened, so they don't trust anyone anymore. And I'm like, okay, I made the choice. Doesn't mean you don't trust anyone else on the team. I don't this seems a little much, you know. But it's like people are like that. So it doesn't ring false. It's just one of those things like, oh my god, are you really going to be like this guy?
Yeah, you can be one of those.
No, I'm definitely not romancing you.
So anyway, that's 2 thumbs up from GameFace for Dragon Age: The Veilguard. Yeah, I'm very excited to keep playing, but there's other games coming now that I'm like,
yeah, fuck those games. I like this game so much more than I thought I was going to.
Yeah.
It's like one of the nicest surprises of the year.
It's kind of exactly what I thought it was going to be on. I kind of assumed it was going to be a return to form.
I did not know if BioWare had this in them.
I thought they did still. I was pretty confident.
They're all different people.
I just thought that those were creative choices that they made, and I knew that they were like, oh, we can't F this up. We are going back to the tried and true.
And they really did need to nail this.
They did it right. Yeah. So
now let's bring this energy to Mass Effect 5.
Yeah.
And
I think they will.
If they can do this again with Mass Effect 5, I'll be over the moon.
Yeah.
But I'll see you in 3 years.
Yeah. So there you go. That's Dragon Age: The Veilguard. 2 thumbs up from GameFace. and we're going to talk about Monster Hunter Wilds in just a second. But before that, here's a word from our sponsor, The Lands of Hyberian. Welcome to The Lands of Hyberian, an old-school turn-based RPG with a point-and-click adventure vibe. It's under development by Sifter Hussein Stealthy Zaban. He's trying to finish his first ever video game, but he needs your help. The game currently includes around 4 hours of content, complete with 49 achievements, but his goal is to improve what he's already created and add another 2 hours before it's complete. Right now, as part of this special promotion, you can purchase this game for just $1. That goes towards things like trading cards, replacing AI art, voice acting, and the soundtrack. While it's certainly not required, Stealthy is hoping you'll provide as much feedback as possible to make this the first video game truly crafted by the Sifted community. There's work to be done, but Sifted Army, let's band together and try to make the best game possible. It's in Steam Early Access right now, and you can find a link to its product page in the description below, or just search for The Lands of Hyberian on Steam. Let's do this! Well, that's right, people. Go to Steam and search for The Lands of Hyberian. That's spelled Hyberian. Again, the game is under development by Sifter Stealthy. Just go on there. It's really awesome how Steam has everything set up. So if you get involved with a game, you can just go on there, and the page is like a little community where you can interact with people who are playing the game or someone like Stealthy who's working on the game. Again, this is his first ever game development project. If you're looking for something to like get in on, to just maybe test the waters and see if game development is for you, this is your opportunity. Go for it. Go to Steam, find the game, buy it for $1, and start working with Stealthy to make it awesome, and you will be able to ship your first ever video game that you can put on your resume. So again, go to Steam and search for The Lands of Hyberian. And also a reminder, again, that we do have a slot open for sponsorship. We have one slot open for the first time in like over a year. So if you're interested, send an email to sponsorship@sifted.net.
Also, as the chat notes, if you're still on the fence for Veilguard, you can pet the dogs, you can pet the cats, and you can hug the baby griffin.
You can, yeah.
What else do you want?
I have become obsessed with petting every cat.
Yeah.
If I see one, I'm gonna get over there, find a way.
I'm petting every dog, I'm petting every cat, I'm giving money to every performer and giving money to every beggar because it feels like something that's gonna add up later.
Me too.
It feels like that's gonna matter later.
I keep thinking like the beggar's gonna show up and save my ass at some point in the game. I give him
I feel like at some point they'll be like, "You've been very generous with your money." It's just like, I'm just like, like I know, I see you. I see what you're doing up there in Edmonton. Yep. I know what you're doing.
I'm on the same level as you on that one. Okay, now it's time to talk about Monster Hunter Wilds, which I think, much like Dragon Age: The Veilguard, will end up being one of the biggest games of 2025. It comes out early in the year next year. And there was well, actually, I think the demo's down now, but there was a demo up on pretty much every platform. And it was a pretty beefy demo, to be perfectly honest with you. I think it just starts at the beginning of the game. And now, plots have typically not been a strong point of the Monster Hunter franchise, and I would argue that it's still not here, but there is way more context. Just what you're seeing right here is way more than you would ever see in a Monster Hunter game to open the game. Like, usually
it's nice to see Ezio branching out.
Seriously. Usually the stories in these games are so cryptic that there's, like, really hardly any cutscenes in it.
Who at Capcom has the thing for the girls with glasses?
I don't know. Somebody.
It's somebody up there is making these choices.
There's the clenched fist scene that they have in every video game. There it was. Like I mentioned last week. Every game has the shot where they show the clenched fist or whatever. There it is for this game. But anyway, basically the plot for this game, and it does have a plot, unlike the other ones. You're like a dust sailor. You're on this like magical sand boat that sails over the dunes, and you are heading to the Forgotten Land. You're looking for a lost expedition party. You get there, and you discover this young boy riding like this mount, and he's being chased by these creatures. You jump off the ship, you save the boy, and that's what really starts the plot. Like, basically, he's a part of a tribe. Once they discover that you saved the boy, they take you in. And then you become you're a part of a guild, and you start working with this village of people to basically bring peace to their area. One of the big changes for this is that the cat, the Palico,
is they're friends and they're calico.
Right.
Yeah.
is voiced this time. It's not just like making cat noises, and you can choose the voice work for your character as well. Just like most games in this series, the character creation tools in this are pretty extensive. You're pretty much able to create yourself if you want to, or just about anything else. I'll admit, I did not check for the options that'll piss the chuds off. I don't know if they're there. Sorry if you're one of those people. I don't know if this game is...
They'll be mad as long as there's a skin tone option.
Well, there is a blonde chick with extraordinarily large boobs.
Yeah, I see her.
I'm hoping that will
they'll be into that.
Draw their attention away from the other parts of the game that might piss them
from the fact that the rest of the boat crew isn't just all white. Yeah.
The other big change is what you're seeing right now are these rideable mounts called Secrets, Seikrets. They look like raptors, basically, and you're seeing them in this scene right here. There have been mounts in prior Monster Hunter games, but this one works a lot differently. So the one thing I like about it, Matt, is you can ride it manually if you want to, and you can go wherever you want, but also you can let it just ride you to the next mission objective. You don't have to do anything. Like, after you finish a mission objective, as long as you don't turn it off, you can hop on your mount, and your mount just instantly starts riding to the next objective, which is great. Because, to me, a big pain in the ass in this franchise in general is like, where do I need to go next? Well, the other thing that helps with that is that in prior games, after you finish a mission, you'd have to wait for the countdown clock to finish, and then they'd send you back to your village, where you, like, take your stuff, and you try to craft with it, or you sell it, or whatever. This game, you can just keep going. You finish a mission objective, you don't have to go back. You can end the countdown manually, which is something very simple that should have been in the game a long time ago, but wasn't, but is now. So you can end the countdown manually, and then you just go right to your next mission. And if you hop on your mount, he automatically takes you there. Also, you can start missions without actually accepting them in this game. You can just walk up to a monster and just whack it with your weapon, and it starts a mission right away. These are huge quality of life improvements for this franchise. It may seem, if you haven't played a lot of Monster Hunter, you may be sitting there saying, Shane, what are you talking about? It sounds like nothing. It is not nothing. They are so compartmentalized and stop and start that it was just infuriating. It's all gone. That is, to me, that's the biggest change. You also have like a new grapple hook slingshot thing. It was in prior games, but it's way more functional now. You can use it, you saw in the B-roll a minute ago, you can use it to grab a hold of airborne enemies and yank them down to the ground. You can use it to snatch items, so you don't have to physically go and pick them up. The other cool thing about the Secrets, the mounts, is that you don't have to get off of them. You can ride around on them as much as you want. You can also attack while you're on horseback, birdback. You can attack with your sword. You can also use the hook shot or your projectile weapon. So, and I know, Matt, this is a part of this game that you hate the most, is once you've injured a monster and they start limping away, it used to be you'd get on your mount or whatever. Remember the dog mounts in Rise? What were they called? The Palamutes or something like that. Palamutes, I think is what they were.
I didn't play that.
Oh, that's right. You didn't play it. Well, anyway, you know how it happens. You injure the monster, then you run after them. They go to the next location, you start fighting them again. Well, in this game, after they've been injured and they're limping away, you can hop on your mount and you can still attack them with your projectile weapons while they're limping away. I know that's not going to make you happy, Matt, but...
I'm never going to play this.
Yeah, I kind of figured. But anyway, the mounts in this make a huge difference across the board in so many different ways. I was really shocked at how much it makes a difference. It also allows you to store an extra primary weapon. Now, it would be nice if you had it on your back and you could switch at will. You can't. You have to go to your mount, get on the mount, and then you can switch your primary weapon. But still...
somebody played Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah, you don't have to go all the way back to the camp to switch your weapon if you don't want to. It does have all 14 of the same weapons, but they've tweaked every one of them. And they've taken away some stuff from some of them, but they've also added stuff. What you're seeing here, this is auto run. So this is my mount just going. I'm not doing anything here. He just automatically will run. And he'll start running along these crazy craggly cliffs and things like that. And again, I thought that was a good added feature to the game, just the auto run to take you to your next mission objectives. But again, it has the same 14 weapons as every Monster Hunter. They haven't added any, but they have tweaked them all significantly. A new feature in the combat is this thing called Focus Mode. It's supposed to be able to help you target specific body parts. I actually found it kind of confusing and hard to use. It took me a while before I really got the understanding of it. Basically, an aiming reticle pops up on the screen. You just use it to target wounds. And you can see the wounds on the creatures. They'll have big X marks, like scars or whatever, on their rear haunches or whatever. And if you attack those spots, you can take down those enemies much faster. Again, I thought it was unintuitive, and there's a lot about this game that is unintuitive, but I'm going to get to that in a minute.
In a Monster Hunter game?
Oh my god,
really?
Man. The menu system and stuff in this, in the UI, is just insane. Like, it's always been bad and obtuse and, like, almost looked like a placeholder. In this, it goes to this whole other level. I really struggled to do very basic things in this game, and I will admit, I did make the mistake of not going through the tutorial because I have played 500 hours of Monster Hunter. And I was like, there's no way I need to go through a tutorial. As it turns out, I probably should have. So I would recommend that to you guys as well. Because it definitely took me way longer to get a hold of the focus mode than it should have if I had just gone through the tutorial. But it does, and so the idea is that it makes it easier to target the monsters. So you're not doing the weird, like, oh, I have this 3-hit combo, and the last 2 hits of this combo are just attacking the ground because the monster rolled away or whatever. It's supposed to fix that. I didn't find that it really fixed it at all. It felt like the combat was still the same to me. You miss some attacks, but then every once in a while, the monster will roll right into you perfectly, and you'll land that perfect. I mean, that's Monster Hunter. Getting that lucky, perfect shot when the monster just rolls into you at the perfect time when you're attacking, like, it's Monster Hunter to me, anyway. But so focus mode is supposed to help you with targeting specific parts of the monster. I recommend going through the tutorial so you understand it a little bit better than I did. But one of the coolest things about this game, at least I thought, and it's also something that has been in prior Monster Hunter games, is if you're having problems on a mission, you just send up a flare. And if you send up a flare, the first thing it does is it tries to bring in real human players. And then if it doesn't bring enough human players in, it will fill in with bots. Or all bots if they can't find any human players. Even in this beta, there were tons of human players. As soon as I sent up the flare, there was 3 dudes there fighting alongside me. And they were way higher level than me. And they would just finish off the monster in like 5 seconds. I'd carve out the goodies. And I was like, that's awesome. All I had to do was send up the flare. And here you guys are to help me finish off this fight. So I think that's great, and again, the flare is something that has been in prior Monster Hunter games. The ecosystem, they talked about it, it is legit. Like, there are herds of creatures walking around the environments, like, and sometimes they'll say, hey, you need to hunt this specific monster. And you'll get there, and there'll be like 4 of them together or whatever, and you need to find a technique to separate the monster that you want to fight from the herd. Like, the very first one that they give you is like, hey, you need to fling dung to get the lead monster away from the other monster so you can fight the one that you want to. Matt, literally, if you said to me, Shane, I'll give you $1 million if you can figure out how to throw the dung, I wouldn't have been able to do it. I never figured it out. And finally, I sent up the flare, somebody else came and threw the dung. And then, after we finished that monster, I was like, I'm going to learn how to do this. I need to learn how to do it. And I started going through the menus. I ended up taking out the fishing rod. I could not figure out how to put away the fishing rod. I sat and stared at the screen for like a minute and a half trying to figure out how to put away the effing fishing rod. And finally what I did to make it go away was walk up to the mount and get on the mount. Like, you hold, like, there's so many modifiers in this where you're holding R1 and you're cycling up and down and left and right with a D-pad, and then you're hitting X to select things, but you can't find the right menu because maybe you select the menu in a radial menu and then that takes you to some other menu that you need to navigate with the D-pad. It is insane. And again, I have played pretty much every Monster Hunter, and still I start playing this one and I can't do anything. It's a PC game that they try to make work on a console, basically. And so you end up having to have all these buttons where you got to hold R1 while you do this, and then you do that, and then you hold R2 and you do this and do that. Obviously, I know after you play the game for 5 or 6 hours, you learn all this stuff and you get over it, and it's not that big a deal. Playing this demo, it was a huge pain in the ass. Any newcomers to Monster Hunter, I do feel like this game does not recognize that there might be somebody new playing it for the first time that hasn't spent hundreds of hours playing Monster Hunter. I think it does assume a little bit too much of the player, but basically everything that Capcom has talked about of like new features and cool stuff, it's all in there in the demo, and it all works, and it works well, and it all makes perfect sense. There is towns that you go back to where you take all the monster parts that you've collected, and then you craft that stuff into new weapons, and you take your new weapons out on your next, but it's not the same pattern like it usually is, where you finish a mission, you go back to home base, go out and do a mission, come back to home base. You can go out and just keep going as long as you want to, and then come back with all your stuff and just craft away if you want to. A lot more flexibility in how the game is played, a lot less annoyance, a lot more respect for the player's time. All that stuff I think they've done a much better job with. Hub areas are now directly connected with hunting locations, so a player can start a quest and enter the hunting location without a loading screen. That's really nice. Locales are now connected and can be transitioned between one another without ever entering a quest. It used to be you'd be like, have to start a quest before you could go to that next area. You don't have to do that anymore. Just so many quality of life things in this game that make it so much better and easier to make, while also somehow still being very easy to bounce off of, because I feel it is designed for people who have played it or played this franchise for many, many hours. Matchmaking, I thought, was seamless. All the networking stuff I thought worked great. The one thing I did find that was a little bit annoying is when I tried to start with a squad online versus calling them in on the fly. Like, that was a little weird. Like, the menus have like 100 players in them, and it gets a little bit messy. Like, I don't think you need 100-person lobbies. I don't know why they've decided to do it that way. 15 to 20 is good enough for me. It does have crossplay, but even with the beta, there were so many people playing it. Like, crossplay doesn't even matter. Like, there are going to be so many people playing this game. You're not going to need to use crossplay to make sure you have people to play with. So, I was surprised at how big this demo was. I got to hunt 3 major creatures. I got to run around the open world and just fight the rank and file enemies and kind of observe how the ecosystem works and how the herding works. It's all in there. Everything Capcom has promised is in there. I saw some chatter online about performance issues. I haven't had any. I played it on PS5, base PS5. I didn't have any stuttering or any other issues. So I think if you're a big Monster Hunter fan, this game has a lot of stuff that's really going to trip your trigger. A lot of things that have annoyed you about this franchise for a really long time are fixed in this. It is legit. The story still is like, I still wouldn't recommend trying to play this game if you're going to play it for a story. It's really about, I think, the cooperative play, playing with friends, going out on hunts together, having fun, coming to people's rescue. Because you can just sit and wait for people to call you in, too, and send up the flare. So the networking stuff in this is good. It needs to be for this type of game. But I still think if you're the type of player who plays RPGs for the story and the plot, I think you're going to still be left wanting with Monster Hunter Wilds, even though it is far more robust in those ways than any Monster Hunter game before it. The truth is, though, the story's really lame. The characters are stupid, but it is a step in the right direction. You have to start somewhere. So at least they're making moves to head in a direction where maybe eventually this game might have a plot worth talking about. But you can see here how the creatures interact with each other. Like, this is me just trying to mess with them to see how they work with each other and work around each other. And I was pretty impressed by a lot of the stuff that I saw in this game as far as the creatures and things like that. You'll see, watch, they'll jump down and they'll follow me, then I jump back up, they jump back up. Like, there's stuff in this game that has not been in prior Monster Hunters, and I think that's what people are looking for as far as like long-term fans are concerned. So, yeah, I had fun with it. I'm not the world's biggest Monster Hunter fan, but I'm definitely a bigger fan than Matt. But you can just see there's just always stuff going on. There's always creatures running around. There's not these barren environments where there's just one big monster running around. I had fun with it. It comes out, is that January or February? I don't remember.
It's February.
Yeah. It's like the first 2 months of next year. It's coming to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series. Again, it's not a huge fan of the franchise. I still had a bunch of fun with it. I liked how easy it was to get involved with other players. Yeah, I think pretty much if you've listened to anything Capcom has said about the game, it's all true and accurate. And now you're seeing me that was me trying to put away this stupid fishing pole. Here's me playing with other people online. So here's the example of, like, we've wounded the animal, he's running away, and if I got on my mount and got up fast enough and I had a projectile weapon, I could ride alongside him and shoot him. Kind of like you're hunting a whale, I guess, really. So a lot of that stuff hasn't changed, like the weird, like, oh, there's a monster limping away that I just wounded, and they don't even really try to rationalize it. They're like, oh, you're there to control the ecosystem. It's like, okay, whatever you say, buddy. But anyway, there you go. That's Monster Hunter Wilds. Again, it's for PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series. It's coming in February of next year, so not much longer to wait, and I do think if you're a Monster Hunter fan, you're going to like it a lot. Okay. And we have one more, I believe. We have one more topic today. Yep. We're going to talk about a couple PC games that Matt has played. And there's been a couple big PC games that were traditional console games that have finally made the jump over, and Matt's going to talk about them. The first one we're going to discuss is Horizon Zero Dawn. Is it called the Complete Edition?
Remastered.
Remastered.
The Complete Edition's been on PC for a long time.
Okay. Which just includes all the DLC, basically, in one package. Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered is available for PS5 and PC, so it's also its PC debut, right? Or is it not?
No, it's been on PC for years.
Okay.
This is just the remastered applies to both.
Okay.
Because the remastered isn't just like better visual, like upscaling. It's like they replaced a bunch of stuff and updated people to their Forbidden West character models and added the Forbidden West environment interaction and like stuff.
What do you mean by that?
Like when you walk through like plants and stuff, you move them.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Like,
Gotcha.
they didn't do that already. And like, I also think I can't remember this one way or the other. I might be wrong. I feel like one of my nitpicks about about Zero Dawn was that she didn't get wet, or her clothes weren't wet when she came out of the water, and they are now.
Yeah. Monster Hunter Wilds, by the way, the water in that on like the animals, the monsters is amazing. Like the fur looks like wet fur. Like the wet skin looks like wet skin. Anyway, non sequitur. But
so this is a $10 upgrade if you already have the game. Otherwise, I think it's just the SKU for Zero Dawn now. If you buy Zero Dawn now on PC or PS5, you will get
for $10.
No, it's a full price game, or like a $50 game if you don't own it.
But I say if you own it, it's $10.
If you already owned the complete edition on PS5 or PC, it was $10.
So you have to own the complete edition, not the base game.
Yeah, but everybody owns the complete edition.
Okay.
They haven't. The only way to have the base game is on PS4.
Okay.
They've sold it,
which is what I have.
They've sold it as the complete edition since before the PS5 came out.
Okay.
If you have it on PS5, it basically just includes the Frozen Wilds.
Yeah.
That's all.
This, to me, now I haven't spent a ton of time with it, but this, to me, is one of the most striking remasters as far as, like, the improvements from the base game to this.
Yeah, you don't think of it until you really start to play it and you realize all the stuff they've done to it. Like, the improved facial animation is very noticeable. It is only really the named characters, like the rando merchants you talk to are still pretty rough.
Oh, really?
Because I don't think they redid a bunch of stuff. They redid a lot of dialogue and a lot of facial capture. But like incidental characters with like one line, not so much. Like characters you do quests with or get quests from, like main quests, like they've redone all that.
Okay.
Everybody very like Varl is very noticeably his face is very noticeably the Forbidden West version.
Okay.
A lot more animation, a lot better skin tone, a lot better just expressions on their faces. There's still some things here and there, like the one Tirsa, the matriarch who helps you early on.
Yeah.
She has the long gray hair, like the long braids that hang down in front. They still clip through her little prayer beads.
Yeah.
Like, not little, prayer beads are like the size of a fist, but they clip through them constantly in every scene, which just like, again,
that's where they drew the line.
It's probably only so much you can do, but also like, again, splitting my time between this and Dragon Age, it's like the hair in Dragon Age is incredible.
Yeah.
Like, the hair in Dragon Age never does that. And in fact, because you can choose in Dragon Age again. In Dragon Age, you can choose your outfits. You can use any armor or outfit you found to replace the look of the one you have equipped.
Yeah.
And it will actually warn, because you have two different things, just like Inquisition. You have the armor you wear in the field and the clothing you wear at home.
Right.
And it actually warns you if you want to pick armor for the home, that like they're like, this armor will clip badly in certain cutscenes.
Wow.
So you may not want to pick it.
That's crazy.
So
they really were like, no, we're not going that far.
No, on everything. Yeah.
They're like, we'll put a little note in there, but we're not going to fix it actually.
But this is definitely highly improved in a lot of ways. It's gorgeous. It
really is.
It's very well optimized. This thing runs 4K, everything maxed out at ultra, runs at 125 frames a second on my computer.
Nice.
Which again, if you remember the when it launched on PC, it was a fucking mess.
Yeah,
so
I do remember that.
Very, very different experience with this one, which is great. I've played quite a bit of. I mean, in a week where I had Dragon Age to play, I played like 15 hours of this.
Wow.
Game.
It's a great game.
I do love this game.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
I like
great.
both of them. They're great. And this is just an even better version. It brings it more in line with the presentational quality of Forbidden West, which is really all I wanted. And the one thing I will say is there are cutscenes in this one that are not real time, or if they are, they are like they're not pre-rendered, but they are canned in some way. Like I don't think they are fully
rendered on the fly.
And they look. But the sound is bad.
Oh, interesting.
The sound in this game is very bright and loud and punchy and good, but there are certain major cutscenes where the sound is just mixed way lower, and there's
Strange.
no way to control cinematics versus gameplay audio. Like it just all of a sudden, like a game that was filling the room, I have to like lean in to hear the dialogue.
Yeah.
And it's only certain scene, mostly early on when you're talking about like stuff with the proving and stuff where she gets injured and wakes up in the mountain and talks to the elder and stuff. The rest of it's great, but like it's just weird to me that the mixing was so completely different on those scenes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that was a function of like the source material they had to work with or what, but like that's my only real nitpick in the whole thing.
I mean, we could both recommend this, right?
100%. I mean, especially if you already own complete edition, it's $10.
Go do it.
This is pretty much the best $10 upgrade I've ever seen.
Yeah. It's one of the best remasters I've ever seen as far as the jump from the base game to the final.
Like you have some remake here too. You know, just the fact that they're altering everything. They've re-recorded a bunch of dialogue. They've reanimated a bunch of stuff so it comes in line. I mean, the facial animation was really the shortcoming of the original game. Yeah, and it's just not there anymore. Yeah, it's just they you see it once in a while with incidental like one-off characters out in the open world, but any named important character, just night and day. Yeah, like really impressed. She's night and day. Just her facial expressions. The one thing I will say on that is she has a little more makeup on this time. Like she's got some lip gloss going on in this that feels like they caved to the chuds a little bit, where they're like, they're all those stupid photoshops where she's like got makeup on and like looks like a fucking porn model and stuff. Like there's a little bit of that happen. It feels like she's got a little more eyeliner and a little more and I'm like, Aloy would not wear makeup.
No, she's like a villager.
No, she's a wild.
Wear like war paint.
She's a warrior in the woods. She's not
gonna wear makeup.
But the detail on this. I mean, the detail on everything.
I mean, the fact that you can notice it.
You notice it, but also the other thing, you can see the little like the peach fuzz on her cheek. Yeah. When it's close up, she's got little fuzz on her. And by the way, that's one of the other things that Chuds complain about because they've never been close enough to a woman to see that they're mammals. So they don't realize that there's hair on everything because we're all mammals. Yeah. She's a fucking person, not a dolphin. Like, you goddamn weirdos. Really good.
ETH Demon, thank you for letting us know. It's February 28th for Monster Hunter Wild's release date. Thank you, ETH Demon.
Really good. Aloy remains one of my favorite characters of the last 10, 15 years.
It's a great game.
She's great.
Now, what about Red Dead Redemption for PC?
Red Dead.
How long did we wait for this?
14
years.
Honestly, it's a minor miracle this existed because clearly they had to rebuild this from the ground up for PC. I remember we were at the DICE Awards the year after, the February after Red Dead came out, and there were a bunch of former Rockstar San Diego people there because they were all fired after the game was finished. Right. And it was a very awkward moment where it won best game design or something. Yeah. And so the gameplay designer basically came up and was like, I'm unemployed. I don't work there anymore. They fired us all, but thank you.
I know I'm laughing. That's horrible.
Hello, mouse cursor. What's happening?
What?
The mouse cursor. Oh, there it goes. There was a mouse cursor in the middle of the screen.
No, I don't know. I probably just moved it or whatever.
Yeah. But they even said when we were talking about it, they're like, we don't know why it works. Like that the whole game was kludged. The code was kludged together barely. The one guy was like, "It's a miracle this game runs on the PS3." Like we don't really know why. We're afraid to touch it because we don't know why.
It'll just all fall apart.
Yeah. So they must have done some black magic on this thing. You got to work on because it's an exact replica. I mean, obviously
it looks good on your PC, man. Like last week you were playing it when I went downstairs. And I was like, wow, like it definitely looks better on your PC than on mine.
It looks better. But like all the weird quirks are still here. It's still a lethal cougar spawning simulation.
It's really weird. They haven't managed to fix that weird stuff.
No one wants that.
It's part of the game now.
That's not a thing to fix. It's the game.
It is part of the game.
You don't want that fixed. You want the game you like.
Yeah.
And so they did
random cougar attacks are part of the game.
Yeah, like if you hear that cougar sound, you're like, oh, we're gonna fucking die. And of course, it's interesting to see the contrast. Like some stuff looks really good. Marston looks good. Then you'll see like a close up of a texture on a wagon. You're like, oh no, oh my god, like no one wants to see that.
Yeah, it does seem a little spotty.
Yeah. The herbs you gather look PS2 resolution. Like they're rough.
There's a lot of problems with early 3D games like this. They use a lot of 2D sprites still. And those are always going to look awful.
Well, they're not 2D sprites.
No, they're not?
They're just really fuzzy textures on really low detail models.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like almost using hair tech to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
You could have, I mean, again, it's PC. You can go on Nexus Mods and find 4,000 mods for this thing that already they already had a mod scene for it for emulating the the PlayStation and Xbox versions on PC. Yeah. Now that all those guys have just updated it to work with the PC version, you can make this thing look amazing.
So you said the cougar is still in there. What about all the other bugs? Did you come across? Because I mean, dude, when this game launched, it was a disaster.
Crazy shit still happened. Like the horse occasionally launches into the air.
Wow, that's all in there still.
Yeah, all the weirdness is still there. All
that's crazy. I'm surprised.
Like weird people falling over and twitching forever. Yeah. No, it's everything you remember. All the quirks are still there.
Okay.
So whether you think that's a good thing or a bad thing,
your mileage will vary.
I mean, we're 14 years out. I think it's crossed into the nostalgia territory now at this point, where like if it wasn't there, you'd miss it.
Yeah.
And again, it saves all the time. Like I don't remember exactly how the saving system worked. I felt like it was less forgiving.
I don't remember either, honestly.
But it auto saves pretty often. You don't lose a lot of time. It just reloads the last thing, and the checkpointing is pretty generous, which I don't remember it being. I remember having to save at the hideouts and
I do remember that.
It will respawn you back at the closest safe house.
Yeah.
But you'll keep all the items and progress you've made, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Playing poker's still annoying. But it's also interesting having just played Red Dead Redemption 2 earlier this summer. The contrast between them, where where there's some things that are better and some things that are worse. It was funny early on to see him walk down the street of the main town with the sheriff, and they are both the exact same walking animation at the exact same time.
Yeah.
So they're whereas in Red Dead 2 that would never happen.
Staggered.
Ever happen. Like everybody's got their own fucking walk cycle in that game.
And if they have the same ones, they're not going to do it in time with each other.
At the same time, it's nice to just shoot an animal and not have to worry about the quality of the skin I'm going to get from it. I just got the thing and
I just killed it, and that's that. Yeah.
Yeah, it qualifies it. I don't even have to skin them sometimes. It just counts it as the thing I'm trying to do.
That's better than what was in Red Dead 2. Yeah. And that's better.
He always has his fucking guns on him.
Right.
Like, it doesn't leave anything on the horse.
There's not the weird, awkward horse mechanics.
If the horse gets killed, you can just summon another one. Right. And it doesn't kill the horse forever like in Red Dead 2. And so there's things you miss where it's like I miss being able to respond to every NPC who talks to me, but I don't miss
the other stuff.
A lot of the ultra detailed nonsense.
How much is this?
A rather steep $50.
You think that's too much?
I think most people will consider it too much. I think it reflects the amount of money and work they had to put into getting this thing to run on PC.
It seems about right for me. It is old, but it's a big game.
It's a big game. It's a big update. It opens it up to so much modding and so much stuff in the future. You don't have to deal with the kludging of emulators and sticking your console disc in the PC and making that work and all those things. I think Rockstar, there's a little bit of Rockstar tax on it, but I do think that they probably did put a fair amount. I mean, look, we saw their last remasters. Yeah. Right?
They definitely put more work into this.
This is night and day. Everything works. I haven't had any crashes. It runs at 155 frames per second at 4K maxed out. It's fine. It's great. If you love this game, this is the best version of it that has ever existed.
All right.
And there's not much else to say about it. And again, it's Rockstar, so the price isn't going to drop that much.
Yeah.
It ain't ping pong. You're not gonna,
table tennis.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, $50 seems pretty fair to me.
After 14 years, like,
if you've been waiting all this time for it, I think you're okay.
If you
with
haven't
$50.
played it, get off your ass. If you have and you just sort of want a better version of it, I guess you could wait for a sale. Like, it's not going anywhere.
Commander Fett brings up they do include the DLC.
Yeah, it does
so
have. It includes Undead Nightmare. It's the whole thing.
Yeah.
And Undead Nightmare is basically a whole other game.
Yeah.
And it all looks great, and it's still fun. It's still enjoyable to play. The characters are still great.
Still the most beautiful skies in all video games.
Great
I think.
Skies. And I do like John better than Arthur.
I do too.
I just think he's
more likable.
Not saying they're better or worse writing, but I just like playing as John Marston more.
I agree with you on that. Yep.
Don't dislike Arthur, just like John more.
Yeah.
And since the early parts of Red Dead 2 are annoying to me because it's just everybody being a dick to John. It's just like, hey, I like that guy. You leave him alone. He got attacked by a cougar. That's all he does. He just constantly gets attacked by cougars.
All right. Well, there you go. That's Horizon Zero Dawn and Red Dead Redemption for PC. Matt, you say Red Dead's good, buy it, and Horizon, buy it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say
winners.
I would put. When you play either of these games, you know which one you like better. If you haven't played either of them, I think Horizon is probably going to be more bang for your buck, especially if you already have the complete edition. $10 is hard to argue with.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. We have one more thing to do before we take off, and you know what that is. So that's right. It's time for Name That Game, where I show you 5 screenshots from a video game, and you try to guess the name of the game before this guy, who is on a heater. You've won 3 of the last 4. Is that right?
I think so.
Yeah. You're 2 in a row now. You've won. He's on a run. I will say this: I set up this week's trying to help you guys win. I'll just put it to you that way.
Oh, he thinks I haven't played this.
No. It's more obvious, so I think they have a better chance of just guessing it, I guess is the way I would put it. The third screenshot should give it away to people who have played the game. I'll put it to you that way. So be on guard for the third one if we make it that far. A couple of things before we get going. If you've won this year, please do not play. You only win once per calendar year, although we're getting to the end of the year, so we're about to turn that over here pretty soon. Another thing is, if you don't play PC games, please don't play, because if you win a PC game that I will give to you out of my own pocket. Any other Patreons doing that? Giving back to their patrons? It's really crazy. You look at these Patreons that are making like 20, 30 grand a month, and they don't give anything back to their patrons. It's insane. We do. I give you money. These games, that money comes right out of my pocket. So if you don't play PC games, or you don't know somebody who plays PC games, please don't play. We want to make sure that the game goes to a home where someone will actually play the game. And then finally, the chat is set to slow mode, so don't just start spamming the chat with a bunch of random game titles hoping you guess it right. 1, you're not going to guess it right, and 2, you're going to finally see a screenshot where you know what the game is, you're going to try to type it in, and it's not going to work, and you're going to lose. So anyway, those are the 3 rules for Name That Game. Again, now that Matt has kind of dominated a little bit here over the last few weeks, I've tried to make it easier so you guys can win. We'll see how it goes. All right, are you ready, Matt?
Yeah.
Are you guys ready to play Name That Game? Here we go. In 3, 2, 1, go. I gave you a wall texture instead of a ground texture this time. I don't know if that'll be any more helpful. Nope, Emperor Dread is not Body Harvest. Sorry. Until Dawn, no. From East Demon. People are getting smarter playing this. They don't guess that much on the first screenshot anymore. I get it. So maybe I should start making the first screenshot a little more obvious? I don't know.
Left 4 Dead.
Not Left 4 Dead. That's a pretty good guess, though. Call of Duty Modern Warfare, no. From Slagathor. Metal Gear Solid 4, no. Call of Duty Ghosts. Wow, that's very specific from Call of Duty, but no. That game on that system. Correct! We have a winner! Baldur's Gate 3, no. The Walking Dead, no. That's a good guess, too, though, actually. The Walking Dead. I can see that. Any more guesses before we go to the second screenshot? Going once. Going twice. Sold. Okay, here we are. The second screenshot in 3, 2, 1, go. Another wall texture.
Condemned.
Not Condemned. That's a really good guess, though. Somebody can definitely get it from this. The Wolf Among Us, no. You can get it from this one if you played the game. You definitely can.
The fire does look familiar.
Max Payne, no. 2 Max Payne guesses in a row, no. Alone in the Dark, PS3, no. Metro 2077, no. Life is Strange, no. We have a winner. Mega Drive guy got it. It is Fear. Awesome. And do you want to know what tipped him off? Can you see it now?
No.
It's the sparks. Those sparks on the right inside that doorway, that is 1,000% Fear. And I think Fear is the only game that has that. Marcus would be proud. That's amazing, Zed Saber. I can't believe you remember that. So that's an interesting story. And I'll just show you the rest of the screenshots. Here's the third one, which is all sparks. That's why I said the third one will definitely give it away if people have played it. Here's the fourth one, where you can just see the whole world all shot up with bullet holes, which was a big part of Fear. And then here's the fifth one, which just straight up shows the Fear soldiers. So if you couldn't have got it from that, you were never going to get it. Congratulations. Send me a DM here on Twitch. On Zed Saber, you're on SIFTD all the time. You can send me a DM on there, and I'll get you your game. Or actually, it's not Zed Saber who won. I'm sorry. It was Mega Drive guy who got it. But Zed Saber brought up Fear with Marcus because Marcus repped Fear as a PR person, and one of the first times I ever hung around with him was reviewing Fear. I went over here at Howard Hughes when Vivendi had those offices there, and he literally put me in a closet to review Fear. It was a closet, Matt. And I sat in that closet and played Fear for like 3 days, and then I reviewed it for X-Play, I think it was. And I gave it like a 3, I think, out of 5, and Marcus, or maybe even a 4. And Marcus lost his mind. Yeah. And went after him. Because you know Marcus. Yeah. And we didn't know each other yet. We weren't friends yet. So he went after me and was like, oh, mate, you don't know what you're talking about, blah, blah, blah. So it turned into this like back and forth across like 3 days where I finally convinced him that I was right, or at the very least that I just reviewed it even-handedly and wasn't biased against it. And we became friends. He's like, all right, I get that, mate. And from then on, we were friends. Like, good friends.
And he stopped being Australian.
Yeah, I guess I'm not good with the English versus the Australian.
The Welsh thing is hard to get.
Yeah. So anyways, that's amazing that you remember that. Like, really crazy. Silkshank says, never name that game easy. It should be challenging. I don't intentionally make it easy. It's just hard. You just never know, like, what games people know, what they don't, what they're going to remember about the games. It's a chess game anyway. I want it to go to the fifth image every time if I can. But unfortunately, it doesn't always work out that way.
I'm trying to remember, when I reviewed Half-Life 2, I had to go up to Valve, and they stuck me in the off. Who was the second guy in command?
Where at?
Valve.
His name was the PR guy.
Doug.
Not Doug.
You know what I'm talking about.
I know who you're talking about, yeah.
Like DT.
Yeah,
like
he
DT.
had the easiest job in PR because they put out one game every 5 years.
They set me up in his office, and I just played like a little table. And I never once saw he'd come in and he was just doing work, and I'm sitting here playing Half-Life 2, and I'm just like, this is weird.
I reviewed Metal
and I was
Gear.
the only person. I don't know why I was the only person who they just had me fly up and play Half-Life 2 for 2 days and go home.
Not bad.
That was it.
Yeah, I've told this story before, but I reviewed Metal Gear Solid 2. 3 at Konami.
I remember that.
PR at her house with her dogs and everything. I literally sat on her couch with her dogs like hanging out with me for like 3 days. So you just got to do what you got to do sometimes. But anyways, Zed Saber, good pull there, man. Like, wow, I didn't think anybody would ever remember that. I tried Noxatornitis. I'm not so good with Marcus's accent. I love that guy to death, though. Okay, well, that's it for GameFace 410 here on Election Day on November 5th, 2024.
Remember.
Yeah, your distraction is gone now, people. Now we all have to deal with the reality of the rest of the evening. But if you have your old buddy LS Cream, it may not be so bad. So maybe pick yourself something to sip tonight, and let's just all keep our fingers crossed and hope that we wake up tomorrow and we still have a democracy. I know people are like, that's hyperbole. It's not hyperbole, people. So again, please go vote. Again, there are 20 plus states where you can just show up with your ID and register and vote on the same day. Please do it. Please do not sit on the sidelines. I'm not even like counting on you voting one way or the other. I just know that the more people vote, the better the chances are we have for a good result. So everybody go vote, please. If you haven't registered and you live in one of those states, register again. Even if you know that your state is going to elect one or the other, it's like a done deal. It still matters to vote for the senators and the House of Representative reps. It all makes a difference whether one side...
And your local.
Yeah, even your local guys, right? Your mayors, all that stuff. Like, all these races are on the docket. Become a part of American society. Do your civic duty. Go and vote. I think you'll feel better about things no matter how they turn out.
It's way better than jury duty.
Yeah, it is.
As civic duties go.
And I just think you'll feel better about yourself, too, if you know, even if, like, your candidate didn't win, you tried. You did everything you could to make it happen. So, again, everybody go vote. Everybody keep your fingers crossed. Please. I really want my vote to count again, man. I can't even believe we're in this position. It's really hard to believe that the United States of America is in this position, right? It is just mind-boggling. I can't even comprehend it, but we are. This is where we're at, and we got to vote. That's
9
the only
years
way.
of this shit.
That's the only way. And that's the one thing I'll say is, like, thank God this is all going to be over one way or another here in, like, the next day or so.
I saw this kid posting on Twitter or Threads, and she said, I've graduated middle school, high school, and college, and he is still on the fucking ballot.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, there's people that have only known this bullshit.
One thing I heard that really rung true for me is that sometimes you have to flush twice.
Yep, true. And he's too old to do this again.
He won't have it again. So. This is it. We just got to do it. This is one last time.
And now we just got to fend off weirdos like J.D. Vance and
right.
these people. This is like,
he'll be gone. He's done after this. Like, he's not a problem. Anyway, let's vote, people, and let's hope for the best. That's all we can do. That's really all you can do is vote. Make sure that you get your vote in. I do want to say thanks to everybody who shows up for our live show at twitch.tv/SIFTD Games. We're here every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. We'll be here next Tuesday at the same time. You guys make the show better. The interaction, it just makes everything better. Doing the show is better when you guys are a part of it. We appreciate it. Thanks to all our patrons at patreon.com/SIFTD. Without you guys, this show just doesn't happen. None of this happens without you guys. If you like this show, you like what we're doing, go to patreon.com/SIFTD, SIFTD. Give us a pledge. $4 a month gets you all our content early. This show 4 days early. Huge difference between a lot of Patreons. Now they're like a day or like nothing. They're not giving their patrons any exclusive access. We still do. And if you can't help us with anything financially, there's always Twitch Prime. If you're watching on YouTube, go down below. There's instructions. It's very easy. Once you hook it up the first time, every month it takes a few seconds to give us a free $2.50. Thanks to everybody in our chat today who did that. We had a lot of people giving us Twitch Prime. We really appreciate it. We need it. And again, we are down a sponsor, so we really need it. So if you haven't resubscribed with Twitch Prime for a while, please do it, because obviously we just lost a sponsor, and it's the holidays where you need more money than ever, so we'd really appreciate it if you could. So thanks, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the show today. I definitely enjoyed doing it. We'll see you next Tuesday. GameFace is up and out.